going to call the 15th meeting of the 14th Undergraduate Senate to order. I'll begin with roll. Senator Christopher.
Here by proxy.
Senator Flores.
Here.
Senator Rodriguez.
Here.
Senator Morial.
Here.
Senator Hayashi.
Here.
Senator Max Robbins.
Here.
Senator Newlander.
Here.
Senator Jenkins.
She's here.
I thought I saw. Senator Jacobs. Senator Adams.
She's coming on her way.
Senator Abisakara.
Here.
Senator Perez.
Here.
Senator Sellinger.
Here.
Senator Morrow.
Oh, here.
Senator Menashe. Senator Giesler.
Here.
Senator Butler.
Here.
Senator Jacob Robbins.
Present.
Okay, cool. Quorum is met. And this is the current agenda. So we'll move to the adoption of the agenda. Jacob.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to amend the agenda to move old business to the top, like before new business.
Second.
Okay. Anything else?
Trevor,
Yes.
for my discussion, I'd also like to move to change the confirmation of David Move for subdirector, just like rescinded. You do that now.
Yes. Okay. Continue. Anything else on the agenda? Seeing none, will be adopted without objection. Moving to minutes from last meeting. Any discussion on last meeting's minutes? Seeing none, they'll be adopted without objection. Moving to public comment. Any member of the public wishing to speak at this time? Seeing no public, we'll move to reports from officers. First to DEI Director Sestero.
Hi all. Most of you probably don't know me. I got 4 minutes, as Trevor's made very clear, so I'll move quick. I've been DEI Director for 2 administrations and SJ, I've been Chief of Staff for 1. And I wanted to say a few things before you start getting into the confirmation process and the weeds of things. This body, in terms of DEI, likes to legislate a lot on it. What I will say is, very few times do they follow through on their passing of legislation. I was directed to create a training for the Senate based on legislation that was passed 2 years ago. So that I did. Went through the processes, got university administration involved, sent out a form for senators to participate in the training. 3 people responded. So I didn't do the training. Then I got an email 2 weeks later, not calling out anyone who sent me this email, asking why the internal diversity survey wasn't sent out. Valid question. It was sent out last year because I felt no one really cared about what the numbers were. So as you begin to confirm DEI directors, other positions that might have something to do with diversity and inclusion, just think about being intentional. The work on this campus is happening. It will happen with you or without you. Put your action where your mouth is, per se, or your legislation is. I just thought it was important for me to come up and tell you my experience over the past 1.5 years under 2 different administrations, 2 different Senates. And one other thing. Look, I have respect for a lot of things that the Senate does. And for the incoming directors who have served, will be serving in cabinets, your title only gets you so far. You got to do the work. It is crucial. You are good leaders, you are great students, and it is important that you actually do the work and care about the work for the positions you're running for. This body has known to be toxic. SG in general has known to be toxic. I have seen it be toxic. I have seen it not be toxic. When it is not toxic, it's because people are doing real work to support students on this university. So I just wanted to not hate on everyone or spill the tea, as they said, but I thought it was important that everyone had a little context to, one, the history of diversity and inclusion work in this organization for the past year and a half, and just some knowledge about SG in general. I think I'm looking forward to the new administration, to some fresh perspectives, some new people, some differing roles, but I wanted to give, clear understanding that your title and legislation does not do it all. You got to do the work. One of the reasons you're a senator is because you care, obviously, about the student body. So engage with the work, go to events, talk to students. Some of you do this constantly, and it's good. Others do not. They sit back and legislate, and they don't do anything else. So that's all I wanted to say. But good luck on confirmations. Yeah.
Good
Thank
time.
you.
Questions for the director?
Oh yeah. Is there questions for me? I've been here for a year and a half. People got questions? Go ahead.
So what do you think of like the position of DEI and like, would you say like it's sufficient for one person to hold the position? Yeah.
Here's what I will say. In my personal view, I've held this role and the chief of staff to the president role in this body. Honestly, on this campus at this moment, not to downgrade anyone else's role, DEI is the most important role that's getting confirmed today. No questions, I believe. Because that is the work that is going on at this university by and large with the Inclusive Excellence Plan, and it's one of the constant things that SG gets ragged on about. And so I think it's the most crucial role. I think you need to be very critical of who you're confirming. Do not do what we normally do, which is fine, and what most legislative bodies out in the world do, is just confirm the person that gets appointed because the person that nominated them is competent. Angela's a very competent person. I know the people she's nominating are competent, but be critical. Ask the questions that you want heard. There are people in here of color or not of color. You have questions. I know you do. I've heard from you. So ask them those questions. Ask them what their views are on the issues. Ask them how they feel about the policies. That's the important stuff. Don't just let someone stand here, give you a speech, and then move on and say, oh, they'll be fine, I guess. That's not how it works. This role is crucial. It will sit on the President's Council for Diversity and Inclusion, which I sit now. It will be in the rooms talking about issues that happen on this campus, the N-word, all these other things, the postings that happen. Their voice is going to be heard. It needs to be one representative of students, and it also needs to be one that you agree with. So that would be my point. I don't know if it's right for one or two people, 3 or 4. I think everyone should be doing the work in general. But in terms of having the role, it's been 1 in the past, it could be 2 now, but that doesn't matter, unfortunately. They're going to be the role, they're going to be in the conversations, but everyone needs to be doing the work. Yeah.
As one of the nominees for a joint director position, is unable to be here today and directly take our questions, do you think that the Senate should move along with that or wait on that?
She's abroad. She's not.
I understand.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not going to say how I think these proceedings should go. What I will say is asking them questions is very important. I was confirmed twice, 3 times by this body. I was drilled every single time I stood up here, right? Every single time, because the work is important and it's crucial. And this work deals with lives, deals with identities, deals with hearts, real emotions. So it's not something that should be taken lightly. This work, the work that the DEI director do will either greatly impact people's lives for the better or greatly not. So I think all I will say on that point is it is really important that you know how they stand on issues and how they feel about the role. If you can get that from the speech that I'm sure Angela will read from the candidate or from the nominee, then that's fine. But if you think you can't get that, then maybe it's a conversation of what you do next, right? What I will say is the work will not stop. This role will work 24/7. I am on every single minute of every single day. Whether that's hanging out with my friends and I see some racial incident or something that I know is going to cause issues, everything drops. That's how I've held this role. Everything drops and I do what that comes to my role and if I get paid to do. So make sure you know what that person is going to do, what time commitment they're going to put into the role, and how they feel about the role. If you can do that through the speech, fine. If you can't, then maybe move it.
All right,
Anyone else?
timing for questioning has elapsed. Are there motions? Seeing none, thank you. All right, moving to case director Hawk.
Thank you.
Do you have a presentation?
No,
Okay.
it's just, I've got a pen.
Let's go to Samantha.
Do we have a podium or?
Come on, get that podium. Samantha,
Might be over there.
get that podium.
If it's not right,
No podium?
no.
All right, how much time do I have?
4 minutes.
I will time myself. All right, hello, everyone. I just wanted to take this opportunity to have some final remarks about case the Undergraduate Senate. I personally spent half of my AUSG career in this body, so I understand all the work you do. I appreciate the work you do. It's absolutely vital to our advocacy efforts in this community and on this campus and for the student body at large. So I just wanted to start with that and then go into sort of some of the highlights that CASE has seen this year. I mean, over the past several years, students have come to expect only the highest quality service from our institution, from the Center for Advocacy and Student Equity in all realms of their experience here at AU. And so just to give an overview of some of the major things we've accomplished this year and things that I'm looking forward to. So first off, we started this year, back in August with a lot of internal reforms, expanding our departments, and now we encompass things like academic affairs, financial aid, ROTC and Veterans Affairs, also emboldening our activities in the Title IX area. But beyond the internal aspects of CASE, we've also taken steps to ensure that we improve the external activities that we conduct to ensure that we can best advocate for this community. So for example, in the conduct code process, we ensure that we best represent students by creating a new process, successfully advocating for a new process in which there is no longer a case complainant presentation and hearings, making the process more equitable. We've also we also served on the Bias Working Group Committee, and now in a couple of days, Dr. Ah, the VP of Campus Life, will be receiving a report in which the Dean of Students himself, as well as every other member of the working group, officially endorses a proposal to change the conduct code to add language saying that we should prohibit bias incidents. That's something that has never happened in the history of AUSG, has never happened in the history of our university, so it's certainly a big win for our community, and I couldn't be more thankful of our staff at CASE in helping us achieve that goal. Also, in terms of our casework itself, we've seen an expansion not only quantitatively, with seeing unprecedented numbers of cases both semesters. As I'm giving this speech, we are currently working on 22 individual cases spanning every single department, but also qualitatively, right? We've seen more cases coming from financial aid. We've seen the first academic cases coming from schools like COGOT and like SOC and like SIS, things we never saw before, but things that we see today because of all the work that we've been able to accomplish over the years. We've also ensured student rights have been met and addressed by finally getting approval, something that ASG's worked for so long, but we finally got approval to post student rights cards throughout campus, and there are currently over 150 of them across this university. And we've also worked with community partners to host things like the AUPD event to ensure that students are well aware of their responsibilities and rights as members of our community. And so moving forward, I just want to say 2 things, right? So first, thank you not only to the Undergraduate Senate, but also to every member who has served in CASE or partnered with CASE, or even just had a conversation with me to ask what CASE has been up to, because your input and your work is absolutely vital to improving our community. The second thing I want to say is moving forward, obviously CASE has a lot of objectives. As I mentioned, CASE students have come to expect a lot from us, and so I just want to say that I place my full faith in our next president, Angela Chen, as well as her nominee for CASE director, Cassie Moore, who will be hopefully confirmed in a while here, to get the job done and ensure that CASE continues to be a service that students can count on. And then finally, to conclude, I just want to say thank you to all of you. Again, the Undergraduate Senate, you all confirmed me back last year. Thank you for trusting me in this role. I've really enjoyed being the CASE director. I'm going to miss it. And although I might be leaving this institution, I know I'm leaving it in good hands with all of you, and so thank you for that.
All right, thank you. Questions for the director? Seeing none, thank you. Okay, so a quick few things. This will likely be the last Senate meeting this semester. I only say likely because I'm not sure how long this meeting is going to be, so we'll play it by ear. Also, then to those that are new to this body / this room, it's going to be a little bit more restrictive this time, just because, as you can see, we have a very large agenda. And so you get a hard 4-minute deadline for your, time for your speeches. Also, questions are to 4 minutes, but those can be extended if senators would like. And I will likely give like 1 or 2 small taps of the gavel when you have about 15 seconds left, just to give you a warning, just so that you're prepared for that. I think that's it for now. Kind of like what Raphael said, just be engaged, be critical. These are a lot, like these people will be leading the organization next year. So make sure that you are engaging in the correct and proper dialogues for that. So questions for me on this process on the agenda today? Okay, yeah. Executives are technically yes. Yeah.
I'm not planning on this.
Yeah. Cool. And other questions? Milan?
Are we allowed to motion for nomination of this nomination or do we-
What?
like for the show coming up before? Should we nominate someone now for it or later on?
We'll do it in a little bit. Yeah. Other questions? Piper?
So you're saying that it's possible, like, we won't get through everything today, you're just saying that in anticipation it's possible that someone can table the meeting or something like that, or?
Anything's possible.
Yeah, okay.
Just given the fact that, like, as long as we keep quorum the entire time,
Yeah. Right.
who knows how long this is going to be. So that's why I'm going to get through as much as this is possible. Other questions for me? Okay. Oh, also, I'm going to probably take a little bit of liberties with parliamentary procedure, just to make things flow easier and faster. Okay, that's all for me. We will now move to reports from committees, to the Special Committee on Finance.
Herbert, you have my presentation. I would like to make a motion to extend my presentation time indefinitely. I promise. We're not gonna go for like an hour. It's just so that way we don't get cut off and we have to make motions. This is really important. It's the budget.
Okay.
Second that, please.
Second, all those in favor of indefinite speaking time, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay.
I'm sorry, you're definite? Yes, indefinite.
It's not gonna go on for like more than like 15 minutes. It's just like so that when we stop it, it's like.
Piper.
Just motion to extend that time to be a 15 minute.
Yeah, I can't, I don't think it's possible. I don't think it passed. Unless someone wants to call the vision. I'm just gonna roll that failed, so we're gonna accept the next motion for 15-minute cap. Is there a second? I hear a second. All those in favor say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. Okay. 15 minutes.
All right, thank you, everyone. The budget is done. We're really pleased and we're really excited. The title of this presentation is Our Budget, Our Values, because we believe that the budget represents the values of this organization and also what is important to us in our community. And I think you'll see that we made some big changes this year. We're really excited. We're also pretty sure that you'll have some questions. So there's some specific question times that I have like like slides. So just hold your questions to those times. So I told you all at the beginning that this process is a hard exercise in compromise and flexibility. I'm going to say right up front, we tried to work our hardest to make sure that we got the best possible budget, and I think we did that. I think we accomplished that, and I think the committee members would agree with me on that. Thank you all. So the budget, it's best to think of it like it's a play in 3 acts, right? The budget is really like a 3-act play. And you'll see why. Act 1, back and founders. Act 2, the actual budget itself. And then when that's done, Act 3, the stipends. And that's why we have 3 bills. Gosh. So I'm going to speak a little bit about back today. So as a reminder, back is the Budget Advisory Committee. It convenes the 3 campus orgs of AUSG, AUCC, and student media. And it's where we decide how we're going to split the student activity fee revenue. It's kind of like, if you can imagine, it's like where we decide who gets what piece of the pie. This year, we had $1 million to split. That was an increase from last year's $940,000. The membership voted unanimously. Everybody was in agreement that we should give Founders Day more money, but specifically just to the week itself. So it's important to note that the funding for the ball has stayed the same, but the funding for the week has gone up to $10,000. So as a reminder, there's only a 5% differential from the 50-25-25 split. So student media needed some extra money this year, and we decided to take a little bit off of what we were going to get to support them. We also gave the student involvement prize $20,000, and I can speak a little bit more to that process if you have questions about that once we get to that point. But the final back allocations for this year, AUSG is getting 48%. We're at $415,000. AUCC needed the full 30%. We were really happy that we could give it to them. So they have $259,000. And Media Board asked for, initially they asked for the full 25%. I said we couldn't do that because that wouldn't put us in a good budgetary spot, but we could give you 2 or 3%, and they were really happy with that. So they increased to 22%. Their budget is now $190,300. Does anybody have any questions on like what this process was? Like what were some of the conversations we had in the room? Anybody?
Seeing none, we will move on.
Excellent. Act 2, the budget. Okay, so there are 4 numbers you have to think about when it comes to the budget. $435,000. That was the budget number from last year. $415,000. So that was the initial money that we had after the back allocation, which would have put us at a negative $19,800. So that was, we were initially operating as if we had a budget cut, but ultimately we had $435,200. That was the final amount with rollover. So it was only a $200 increase from last year, but you'll see we've really kind of switched how that was allocated and everything. So this is just a disclaimer, right? So that you're going to see two separate graphs, before rollover and after rollover. So I think it's really important we highlight this, and I'm going to tell you why when we get to a certain slide. But you see here, so what we've done is we've sort of decreased some of the main accounts when we were thinking about how we were going to do this. If the budget was $415,200. The first thing we did though was we really upped WI's budget. That was, we were all in agreement that was the first thing we really needed to do. So they have an increase to $40,000, and I can speak a little bit more to that later. CASE has only a nominal decrease, and KPU and subs budget was hit the most in this part, but you'll see in the next part that we mitigated that a little bit. And I'll also speak a little bit more when we get to it, to the co-sponsorship fund. So keep going. So essentially, right, what we've done is we took all the rollover that we were going to have and we gave it all to KPU and sub because we already gave WI what we wanted to give them. So KPU is at the bottom half of what they were asking for, and sub is at a nominal increase of $185,000. So here's some notes about the budget for this year. So WI is seeing a massive increase of funding. They gave us a really compelling pitch. And I think if we're thinking about a budget representing the values of this organization, our community, it's really about time that they have the chance to kind of do their own thing and not have to rely so heavily on other organizations. They can really kind of create their own really set of importance on this campus. They can have their own events, and this sets a really great precedent for doing so. And we're really pleased about that. The travel subsidy has been rebranded to the SG Club Co-Sponsorship Fund. This was done for a number of reasons. So SG General last year had $5,000 in it. Out of the $5,000 that was in that account, 4,000 of it was spent on club co-sponsorships, and the other 1,000 was spent on executive programming, like Valentina's event for classroom bias and things like that. So we thought, well, what we should just do is we should have, if there's so much interest, we really should have an account that people can see that, for club co-sponsorships, we should have an account where we're saying that we really want to be sponsoring clubs, we really want them to come to us, and also it allows it so that like travel subsidies was kind of odd in that it was really only an account that was designed for if the executives wanted to travel somewhere. It's kind of a good premise, right? Like spending student money to travel places. And even though we would use money in that account for like if PSSR wanted to send somebody to a conference, it's the actual description of that account is only for the executives. So technically we weren't supposed to be doing that, but we did it anyway. Now we have an account that's basically for those kinds of events, for those kind of co-sponsorships. There's a lot of money in that account. Capital maintenance has decreased a lot. That's because that's just like office supplies and things like that. And so the thing I really want to like give a really strong asterisk to is there was some kind of confusion from last year's budget. Sub this year only spent $178,000. If you look at last year's budget after rollover, what was allocated to them was $191,000. So it's a little bit odd because in one sense we've cut their budget, in another sense we've given them more money, because if they only spent $178,000 and we're giving them $185,000, that's technically an increase, but something happened where money either didn't roll over or there was a miscommunication, but essentially we're trying to figure out what happened to that. So KPU requested a lower amount of funding, and it was still in the range of what they wanted. And I would say that everybody almost got what they wanted. Like we came so close to having a situation where everybody could get what they wanted, but there was some compromise that had to be had. But ultimately, we think we have a really good budget. Are there any questions about the AUSG budget while we made certain decisions? Anything at all? No? All right. The stipends, Act 3, the closing part. So I think it's important for us to think about like stipends, like why we decided to make the decisions that we did. So the committee, we looked most principally at demonstrative data, equity in the positions and things like that, and I can speak a little bit to that later, and thoughtfulness in the position description. This year, we saw a major expansion of some cabinets, all really wanting to be stipend, and with new positions, we really had to think about how the work was now going to be stretched out and what new duties are being created. And for new positions, we took a more cautious optimism. Like, of course, we really want to trust. We also can't give a new stipended position $1,000. It's really unreasonable for a number of reasons. Most principally being it's new and it's student money, and we don't want to be setting any kinds of precedents. So we're really kind of doing a whole thing. We're like, we trust you and we're going to give you money, but we need to verify the work first. We looked at what money was being left on the table, and there were certain funds that you'll see that we really shouldn't have been spending money in, putting money into, and we have fixed that. And I just like to say this: it's not for us, the committee, to decide the makeup of an executive cabinet. It's just simply for us to see from a budgetary standpoint, how we can make it happen, right? It's not for us to decide, whose work is more valuable, or, for us to pass judgment on why these positions exist. It's simply for us to figure out, we have a certain pool of money, where does it all go? So, Trevor. I think it's also important, because some people didn't realize this, I certainly didn't realize this, stipends don't kick in until October, so the stipends come from a separate pool of money. This isn't coming out of our AUSG $435,200 budget. It's coming out of a separate pool of money. So I think that's important to note. I think there's been some kind of conversation, if that money is not spent, what happens to it? It would probably just go into our reserve account, and that's one way we have no reserve account. So notes from the stipends. So stipends have increased to $71,500 from $70,000. The VP Mulan, the cabinet, had requested that we cut $200 from each programming director, and then we place that in the deputy leadership fund. We did that, except when it came to the Founders Day director, because we felt that stipend going down to $2,800, that person does a lot of work. So what we just did was we cut the directive fund, because the directive fund was supposed to be set up for people who work in SG who don't necessarily get a stipend, but we can allocate that money, but we just it's been money that's been consistently left on the table. we're gonna get rid of it because like, there's no reason for us to have that. So what we just did was, there was $500 in there that we normally would have spent. We're giving $100 of it to the clerk because we think the clerk does really important work. We want to make sure that we're incentivizing people to be in that role. And we're just putting that $200 in DLF that would have been taken from the Founders Day director. Angela and Bobby both wanted some kind of financial aid and affordability position in both of their cabinets. We were concerned that there would be some kind of redundancy, but like I said previously, it's not our job to decide how cabinets are set up. It's simply our job to say, from a budgetary standpoint, how we can make something work. So what we did was we said, if you want these positions, this is what we think would be the best possible way. So we're taking a full stipended position of $800, and we've split it between the two roles so that it's $400 each. And the last sort of note here is that the speaker stipend has decreased to $200, so that's on par with the other programming directors and things like that. I think that's all I have for you. If you have any questions on the AUSG stipend, go ahead, we still have time, or how the process worked. We're going to be moving into the bills pretty shortly, so I can also answer any questions there.
Questions? Curtis?
So, thank you for your presentation. I just had a question about stipends. So these stipend positions, who's required to vote on this?
So that has nothing to do with how we allocate money. So I don't know. I would say y'all are getting student money. Y'all probably should be accountable to the students, but it's not like we have any kind of requirements. We looked at the position descriptions, and if somebody said, right, like this person will be required to put in this amount of work and these like this office hour and things like that, then we would probably take that more seriously. But it was just our job to look over the proposals and kind of think about how we can do that from a budgetary standpoint.
Other questions?
Before I close, I really would just like to say, I want to thank all of the people who stayed up really late working on the budget. It's really a thankless job, and I would say that outside of DEI, this is some of the most important work that we do because it's student money, and it's like students see this. So thank you to everybody who stayed up like super late, and for everybody's patience in scheduling and things like that. We think we really have a budget that is just dynamite and really reflects our values as an organization. So once we move on to the bills section, if anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, or grievances, we can go from there. Thank you.
Okay, CRP, everyone that's on this list was recommended favorably by the committee. And that's it. So, questions for CRP? Cool. All right. The chair would look favorably upon moving some nominations up before the bills. Jacob?
Mr. Speaker, I believe you had let me know that Hannah and Nancy need to leave a little bit early, so I motion that we move up their confirmations ahead of old business.
I hear second. Discussion on this motion?
Yeah, it's not second, it's
Yeah, we'll just do that now. Okay. All those in favor of amending the agenda to reflect as it is now, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. And the chair, the ayes have it, and we will now move into the confirmation of Nancy Legitimacy to be Director of Student Experience Enrichment. Yes.
One of my board directors is doing that, so she can FaceTime and do questions, but it's like nighttime there, so I was wondering if we could move her confirmation up after Nancy kind of.
The senators can consider that.
Right.
Let's focus on these two confirmations first because we have two people that need to get out of here, and then after that we can consider. Nancy, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nancy. I was a part of this body in the 13th Undergraduate Senate. I was the clerk for the 12th Undergraduate Senate. So I'm familiar with this room and this process, but this is my first time actually getting confirmed. So excited for this process. To tell you a little bit more about who I am and what I value as a person, I'm a rising senior in SPA. I'm a sophomore right now, but whatever. I'm a CLEG major, I'm in SP leadership, I'm involved in Greek life. As far as my student leadership experience, like I said, I was the clerk of the 12th Undergraduate Senate. I was senator for the School of Public Affairs for the 13th Undergraduate Senate. In the 13th Undergraduate Senate, I was chair of the Health and Wellness Committee and vice chair of the Committee on Campus and Student Life. I have also been involved in the RHA since my first semester on campus. I served as a representative for Lutz, Clark, and Roper Halls, and then this past year, I served on the executive board as vice president of advocacy and community coordination. So I have been actively involved in campus and student leadership since I came on this campus. To talk a little bit more about the position of Director of Student Experience Enrichment, mainly it's focused on housing, dining, Greek life, and student campus organizations, among a lot of other topics. But I think I'm very well prepared to hold this role because of my position in RHA as VP of Advocacy and Community Coordination. At the beginning of each semester, I met with over 20 student clubs and organizations to get a feel for the culture of their club, the things that they valued, and most importantly, the ways that student leaders could advocate for them on campus. So I also know my way around the Office of Campus Life, which falls under AUSG and RHA. I'm very familiar with the structures there. I'm very close to a lot of the administrators. I've created a lot of professional connections, and I have no doubt that I would be able to advocate for students in those professional settings as I have in the past. As far as tangible projects that I would like to pursue, I'm really passionate about bringing resources to students and making them aware of the options that they have, specifically as far as campus offices like the Health Promotion and Advocacy Center, the Student Health Center, the Student Counseling Center. They have a lot of really great services that students don't necessarily know about because administrators, in my opinion, tend to have issues with communicating resources to students. So that's something that I would be really passionate about. I also have a vested interest in overseeing the implementation of the new dining provider, as this was something that I worked closely on in my RHA position, and it's something that I would like to see through in this position as well. And then additionally, I've also learned from my time in student leadership that the needs of students change on a dime, week by week, day by day. So a lot of what I would like to do in my day-to-day job is make sure that I am staying connected to the campus and organizations there, listening to what students are most passionate about and most interested about, and most importantly, what needs to change and the ways that I can help to make that better. So with that, I'm open to any and all questions that you might have about qualifications, ideas for the role, tangible projects, and things like that.
Thank you. Annalisa?
Hi, thank you. Are you able to speak on behalf of a few organizations that you met with, and particularly speak on behalf of the needs of like Black organizations and like Latinx organizations?
Yeah, absolutely. So I met with, first semester I met with LASSO, LULAC, NAACP, BSU, ASO, ESA, among a lot of others, but a lot of the issues that were brought up were things like getting students to know what these clubs and organizations are doing on campus. So a lot of our partnerships revolved around promotional on social media and things like that. But one of the things that came up with especially Latinx organizations and then later in the year a lot of Black organizations was that affinity housing is something that needs to be pursued. And it's a project that I started researching a lot in my term as RHA. So I have a lot of scholarly research on like the benefits, what other institutions are doing, and that's something that I would really like to start pursuing over the summer, and just sort of getting a sort of project proposal together and making an action plan, and especially meeting with all these organizations and making some sort of working group, because it seems like something that's a really huge issue on campus that I really think that a lot of people would like to get involved in.
Yeah.
Are you aware of like the current process in regards to affinity housing?
Currently, from what my experience in housing and residence like, there is not one in place, but the process or the idea of affinity housing is something that's been brought up from my experience or from my knowledge at least every year for the past 5 years. So I think what really needs to happen is someone needs to sit down with administrators and say like, you've been hearing that this is a need for at least 5 years, probably longer. There are spaces on campus where it can work, and it's clearly a demonstrated need for students. And so I think from my experience with working, especially with HRL, coming with an action plan and saying like, we have done the research, we know that this can be done in these specific ways will be the most effective way to get that done.
Sean?
Hi, so we touched on this in CRP, but I just wanted to bring it up to the full Senate. So could you just elaborate on our conversation regarding Eagle Summit and just the accessibility associated with that?
Yes, absolutely. So the conversation in CRP was about Eagle Summit being cost prohibitive because I think it is about, was it 150, something like that? But it's a large amount of money, and so I'm not necessarily sure if that's something that would fall under my position. However, I'm definitely interested in having a conversation with more students to see if there's either a lack of resources, a lack of access to resources as far as financial aid or scholarship, or if there's something that will need to be happening to sit down and have a conversation with the orientation staff or like the people in charge of Eagle Summit at an administrative level and saying, these are students that have had issues with attending Eagle Summit because of the cost, and trying to figure out the best ways to go about either reducing that cost, finding more ways for financial aid, or trying to rectify that issue.
Okay.
How is this role going to be different than, let's say, the work? How are you going to differentiate it from the work that, say, DEI would do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say specifically the things that I'm more experienced in and the things that I'm more qualified to work on don't tend to be DEI centric. I think definitely like housing and facilities are things that I'm very connected to. Greek life is another really big facet of students that I think needs to be advocated for a little bit. So I think, especially because DEI and student experience enrichment do tend to go hand in hand, a lot of my role would be making sure to connect with other members of the cabinet and making sure that A, there's not overlap, or if there is overlap and what we're passionate about, we're working together as opposed to siloing ourselves into different community projects.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you. If you wouldn't mind leaving the room. Discussion on the nominee. Sean?
So I stated this in CRP, he has a wealth of experience with respect to the time in RHA and student government, as well as in her sorority. So I think all that will certainly translate to her being effective during the student enrichment experience. And so with that, I would urge the Senate to vote favorably on the nominee.
Other discussion? Curtis?
Yes, thank you, Annalisa, for bringing up the question, because I think it's really important to get tangible action within some sort of process with HR in regards to, Nancy's experience in the RHA, and also making sure that if the students want affordable housing on our campus, that we actually follow through with administrators and actually bring that tangible advocacy into action.
Other discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote without objection. All is in favor of confirming Nancy Legitimacy to be the Director of Student Experience Enrichment, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, the chairs, the ayes have it, and she is confirmed. Can someone grab her, please? We're now going to move to the confirmation of Hannah Denisay to be the Director of Online Engagement.
Okay, hi everyone, my name's Hi everyone, my name's Hannah Denisay. I'm currently a junior here at AU. I want to first thank James for nominating me for the position. I want to tell you guys why I'm fit to be Director of Online Engagement. Last summer, I worked as a remote intern for College Media Network, where as a writer and social media producer, that job required me to write about different topics, as well as edit my drafts along with my coworkers. I was also a social media producer, and I wrote and made content I would later post on all of our social media platforms. Last semester, I was a digital fellow for Mothership Strategies, which was a digital political consulting firm where I worked on email marketing, research, writing copy, posting on different social media platforms for different clients, such as during the midterm elections, different political figures, and those organizations that support them. Currently, I'm a media manager at the Department of Justice, where I answer phone calls from different news media outlets, local and national, gather news clips, and assist with press interviews and press conferences. I believe that the experience I bring to the position would help expand AUSG's social media presence, as well as contribute to making AUSG more transparent to the student body. I have a lot of ideas for positions, such as including expanding our Instagram account, utilize its features along with it and other social media platforms. Not only would I highlight ASG, what the things ASG was doing, but also highlight other organizations on campus that go beyond KPU, Women's Initiative, and SUV. An example is we highlight Eagle Summit, and such as we have 2 e-board members who would be OLs. I would also like to create different social media campaigns throughout this year. Another aspect of the position is staying in contact with communication directors. I plan to hold weekly, bi-weekly meetings with them or any schedule that would fit their needs as well, ensuring that we stay on top of everything we need to do. Also, I'll be here this summer as well, which will make it easier to complete some of the projects I want to tackle on, as well as making the master calendar. Lastly, to address some concerns, while I have time for this position, yes, I'm very good at time management. I was able to manage all my responsibilities this semester and still meet my academic goals. How do I work on a team? I work very well on a team. One of my best qualities is communication and helping others when needed. How would I work with my deputy director? Yes, even though she should be technically underneath me, I want all of her to use her ideas brought to the table, especially if I fear events that will occur. The more creativity, the better. So yeah.
Questions for the nominee? Piper?
You mentioned like doing social media campaigns. Can you kind of run through for me what a social media campaign would look like and how you would measure its success?
So definitely measuring success. So it's definitely, we look at the analytics. So a lot of social media, we think about how many likes we get and stuff like that, but it's also so much more. The analytical part of it is like looking at how many people come to your page, how many people, like what time of the day, what time do they mostly see it, and stuff like that. And measuring success, yes, would also be including likes and stuff like that, but also look at the analytical part. And the campaigns that I'm also thinking about is like maybe doing Eagle Summit 2K19, like welcoming our new Eagles, doing it on an Insta story platform as well. Another thing is Feature Fridays, and I understood it at CRP that Angela also has is getting a chief operations who's going to work on her Twitter page and stuff like that, and we might overlap on some stuff, but I would like to stay in contact with her to make sure that that the stuff that we do coincides is not like exactly the same.
Other questions, Annalisa?
How do you see your role fit or tie into like other roles like other cabinet roles in terms of like promoting different events and
So one of my big things is making sure we're staying in contact with those members, staying in contact with those members, and keeping up to date with like what they're doing and stuff like that. Making sure that like what I'm posting on AUSG's platform coincides with what they're talking about. Because we don't want to make it so there's like a disconnect between the two, but also we don't want to make it seem like we're like carbon copies of each other, if that makes sense. And also for my plan, I want to expand to cover all of AUSG, including Women's Initiative, SUV, and KPU, as well as other student organizations, because we're student government, we work with the students, and we should cover what they're also doing on campus as well.
Other questions? Terry?
You have like some ideas to like find the balance between, reaching out to students. Social media, I know a lot of times students get a lot of emails from like AUSG and all that kind of stuff. They just tend to ignore it. So could you like maybe like elaborate, like some ideas how
To like get into contact.
increase the engagement?
The engagement, so definitely I think we underutilize our social media platforms. We have a lot of chance. We have the opportunity to engage with our students, especially with like new features that have been offered on the different social media platforms, such as Instagram, doing polls and stuff like that. And one of the things I really want to do is actually doing like live video footage things. So for example, on Facebook and Insta, you can do like the live Facebook thing, which I know we do here for our cabinet meetings, but also say a senator wants to pass a new bill. Like students don't always read like what's being posted on Facebook, but if you post it in an Insta story and you like just do a really quick breakdown what it's about, you go through your story so quickly and you see it, you just stay there and watch the video for like the entire time. And going on with what you say about connecting with other students, one of my main things I want to do during the summer is contact a lot of bigger organizations on campus with their communication director or like whatever is equivalent to that, and see like what we can do to help promote like events that they will be holding throughout the year, as well as covering organizations that don't always get recognition, if that makes sense. Because one thing I feel like we lack is that, yes, we cover all the events that we do as well, but we don't cover other events that other clubs and organizations do.
Annalisa?
I do intend, like one of your projects, to collaborate with our communications director, when I say our in the undergraduate center. Like if you could just name like one project that you have.
Oh, one project that I have is Feature Friday. So that's like when we take a photo of someone in AUSG and talk about who they are, what they're doing, and what like project they're currently working on. And I also collaborate with communication director for whatever program that is to ensure that it's like done accurately and properly to what they also like, versus like what we as under the Secretary's Cabinet like.
Time for questioning has elapsed. Other motions? Seeing none, thank you. I'm leaving the room. Discussion on the nominee. Seeing none, we'll move to vote without objection. All those in favor of confirming Hannah Demasay to be the Director of Online Engagement, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. In the chair, the ayes have it, and she is confirmed. Moving into, Sean.
I motion to move the confirmation of Christina G to be the director of diversity inclusion, for the board,
Okay. Here a second. Discussion on this amendment.
Fantastic.
All those in favor of moving the confirmation up, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. In the chair, the ayes have it. Okay. Now, moving to Bill 1819-007, a bill to,
There's another motion.
yes, Piper.
Motion just to move the confirmation of Diamond for the other director of diversity inclusion, just to follow Christina. I think it would make more sense to like have them together in order for us to like follow the line.
Is there a second? I hear a second. Discussion on this amendment. Seeing none, all those in favor say yay.
Yay.
All opposed say nay. In the chair, the ayes have it. Okay. Moving Bill 1819-007, a bill to approve the back allocations.
Point of inquiry.
Yes.
Do the nominees have to be like sworn in or what's the voting on?
So y'all wrote that out in the bylaws? Just saying.
What's the answer?
So no.
The answer is no.
007. Would the sponsor like to speak on this?
Yes, this bill ratifies the back agreement. If you disagree with the back agreement, maybe now would be the time to voice that disagreement, but that ship has sailed. So, no, I would really encourage everybody, please, like, ask questions, like, I'll say, I'll speak to what it was like being in that room, and I also know Colin was there as well. I don't know if he can speak rights, but hopefully he can shake his head yes to everything I'm saying. The back meeting went really well this year, and I will say that everybody was really on the same page regarding like everything. Like there was really like no disagreement when it came to, yes, we should give more money to the week of Founders Day because that's how we build community. We have events that people really enjoy and want to be at. Like, yes, like we should give AUCC the full 30% because we want to support clubs and everything. I also think that student media, they talk about wanting to do more like programming and not just being like an organization that is focused on publication. We thought that was really exciting, great. So we wanted to give them a little more money. I also think like symbolically, I think it's a sign of goodwill that we're below the 50% mark. We could easily stay at the 50% mark and increase our budget, but I think regardless it was an increase. And I also think that it's a sign to these organizations and to the student body that we want to take our fair share, but we also want to make sure that other organizations are supported. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. I would really encourage you to engage in this time because this is student money. It's almost $500,000 we're talking about. So maybe not in this bill, but the next bill and the bill after that.
Questions? Yes.
All three bills say, I believe, Jacob, say that they require 2/3 to be adopted. Unless I'm mistaken, somewhere else in the governing documents, the bylaw said bills only need majority votes.
Okay, so.
So that's just something for people who are reading the whole thing. It doesn't require 2/3. Just requires majority.
Excellent.
Questions? Seeing none. Oh, Sean?
So just a quick question about the student involvement prize. So the $20,000 that allocated, does that go into like a bigger fund?
Yeah.
Okay.
The student involvement prize was set up a few years ago to kind of its definition was brought up at the time. We agreed upon at the meeting on what the definition would be, and that money doesn't come out of this budget. It comes out of whatever is in our reserve account, whatever rolls over. So this year, I think we're on track to have like, I don't know, 51,000 in rollover. So 20,000 of that gets put in the student involvement prize, and then with whatever else rollover, that's what goes into the part I was speaking about which is the allocations with rollover. So, yeah.
Other questions? Seeing none, we will move into discussion. Discussion on bills 007. Curtis?
I agree with Jacob that getting the 2% to student media is a good sign of goodwill, and hopefully in the future, partnerships between student government and student media to get the word out about what student government is doing.
Jacob?
And this might be important to say to especially some of the nominees who are here who hopefully will be interfacing with student media. I think it was a little bit, I don't know, maybe I was reading too much into this like little moment, but the first person who they asked for more percentage was AUCC. They didn't even think to come to us to ask, right? And so I interrupted them and I said, no, you don't have to go to AUCC. Like, we'll be more than willing to give out because AUSG should be supporting student media and what they do. And so, like, I would say that to all the nominees who really want to work with student media, like let's do it. Let's have a good partnership because we want them to feel like they're supported and they can ask us for more money down the line. So I'll just put that out there.
Other discussion on this bill? Seeing none, we'll move to vote without objection. All those in favor of adopting Bill 1819-007, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. In the chairs, the ayes have it, and this one's adopted. Moving to 00A, would the sponsor like to speak on this bill?
Please ask questions. This is the budget. And any questions like why we had to do a club co-sponsorship fund, anything at all, I'm more than happy to answer your questions. Well, it's not my ability to take questions. So here's a question.
Are you're done with your introduction?
Yeah.
Questions?
Who is making decisions on club sponsorship? So the comptroller?
So it'll be like the comptroller because in the past, right, SG, it's under the same purview of towns, because SG General, the travel subsidy, and the capital maintenance account, those fell under the comptroller. Now, SG General was an account that was labeled, it was money to be spent at the discretion of all the executives, and that's obviously still gonna stand, but the club co-sponsorship, like, that has traditionally, and I think, Mulan can speak to this, but as he was the associate comptroller last year, like, in the comptroller's office, people would come and they would request that money, and that was largely in the comptroller's office.
Yeah.
However, that wants to be legislated, we could write something that talks about it, but this is just setting up that fund, and currently it's under the purview of the comptroller.
So it's just setting up the fund?
Yeah.
Got it, okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, we'll move
I have a
into.
question. Why did we give WI so much more money? That's a good question. I'll answer that. Because
All right, no, I'm gonna rule this dilatory because, like, I'm moving right into discussion. So if you want to make a comment, just make a comment. We are now in discussion. Any discussion on the bill? Jacob.
I'll just say, we felt really strongly, like the first thing we did was we gave WI their full asking and like a little bit more that we had, like left over. And that was really because we feel really strongly that, number one, for a really long time, they were having to rely on co-sponsorships with other events. And a big concern that was brought up was when you're having something that's being co-sponsored, what do you kind of give up when that happens? So we kind of really wanted them to be able to have events that could be their own. The second thing we felt really strongly about was, on this campus, we have spaces that have been set up for healing, but WI also focuses outside of healing on celebrations of joy, and we felt like that was really important to have as an organization. Now, it's not to denigrate the other work of other programming boards, because we think that those boards are really important, but what we're trying to say is that there can be alternative kinds of programming, whether it be arts-based programming, whether it be like programming that talks about like certain kinds of healing, or it's meant to inform the public, that can stand on its own merits and have its own kind of level of funding. We think that this kind of budget sets that precedent to do that. It'll be incumbent upon next year's Senate to decide whether or not they want to keep that, but we think we're in a really good position now with that. If anybody has any comments or discussion, I think this is really important. It's almost $500,000.
Further discussion? Seeing none. We'll move to vote without objection. All those in favor of adopting 18-19-008 as it is written, say yay.
Yay!
All those opposed say nay. In the chair, the ayes have it, and it is adopted.
It was the book committee.
All right, moving to 009. Would the sponsor like to speak on this bill?
I'll speak to some of the specific changes we made. So I think, I don't know if I would say this was more controversial, but we just really felt like, number one, the clerk should be getting some kind of stipend, because number one, we want to incentivize people to do that work. Now, Sophia obviously is doing this job knowing that she wasn't going to get a stipend, but we really felt strongly that number one, the directive fund existed to help people who don't get a stipend, right, to give them a stipend, and that's just money that was being left on the table. So we felt like the clerk would fit under that sort of purview. So that's why we decided to give them a modest $100. We don't feel like it's too controversial. The other thing to note is that this year, the bill is organized, the second positions are organized by cabinet, so that's exciting. In the past, they haven't been, so you can find really easily what goes under what cabinet. Outside of that, there were so many positions that were added this year that we felt like once again, it's not the committee's position or desire even to tell people how they should legislate and tell people how they should set up their cabinets. It's more from a budgetary standpoint, what can we work with and what can we do? And I would say that the $1,500 increase from last year is pretty reasonable. It's pretty much in line with how the stipends have been going, except for when we've had to make major cuts. I would say this is really in line with that. And if anybody has any questions or concerns, I would say really voice them, because this is student money that's going to other students, and I'm sure there are opinions on that. But I think this is the time to voice those opinions and about this budget as well.
Questions? Marco?
I guess I would just ask, was there a conversation around the stipend for DEI in terms of the amount of work? I know there was conversation last year when the budget was being discussed about it, so I was just curious.
So the amount that was requested, we gave them the full amount. So this is what was given. So I'll just speak on my own opinion. So if a position is being split in two and all of a sudden that work is now being split between two people, it should probably be that stipend is just getting cut in half. So that was the first thing we recognized. I would say the only conversations we had, if an amount we felt was too low, was are you lowballing us? Are you lowballing us intentionally? Sometimes there's a perception that if you lowball the committee, will be more likely to accept your proposal. This is for everybody in here if you're here next year. That's incorrect. That's actually a bad way to go about it, because it only goes down from there. So the conversation was had now this position is being split into, is this enough? And we felt yes, it was. But if you feel like it's not, then I would love to hear what you have to say about that.
Other questions? Seeing no other questions, we'll move to discussion. Discussion on this bill. Rafael?
I just,
didn't really speak on this last year or the year previous because I was in a position, it was kind of conflict of interest for me to advocate for more money for my own bank account. But I just think looking at the entire stipends, looking at, you know, what people get paid, it really reflects where we put our values. And to say that, not necessarily clerical jobs, but some of them clerical jobs are getting more money than the real kind of nitty gritty student support work that is happening that requires a lot of time, a lot of effort. They're getting more than, you know, what some of the other positions are getting. I think is an interesting kind of statement of where we see it. I get that the committee doesn't make that, you know, the determination around it was requested and you gave them the amount requested, but I think just the Senate should consider what they value in terms of this organization's outreach to the community and reflect that in the stipends.
Parker?
I will say the decrease to the directors and using that as a way to increase the leadership on, great way to
Yeah.
I think the lower level positions that you're talking about that to allow like creating work. I think that the leadership fund, at least in the UK cabinet, is a great example of that. So I think
Yeah.
Jacob?
Yeah, I just want to speak to what you were saying, Raphael.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. You have to also understand like where we're coming from. Like, if somebody is only requesting like that amount, it's like we can't just say that like go rogue and say let's just give this person like $2,000 or something. It's like, I agree. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I'm just saying.
It was a general comment that gets discussed almost every year and never gets.
Other discussion? Seeing none. We'll move to vote without objection. All those in favor of adopting Bill 1819-009 as it is written, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. In the chair, the ayes have it, and it is adopted. Contingent on the president's signature. Okay, moving to further new business, to the confirmation of Christina G. to be Joint Director of Diversity and Inclusion. The floor is yours, hers.
I'm gonna do her speech and then I'm gonna call her. I don't know. She lives in a very remote village in Spain at the moment, so we're gonna see. How is it okay if I open up a new tab, or is that gonna mess it up, the live stream?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna do her speech first. So I'm speaking on behalf of Christina. I'm not Christina. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christina G. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I would like to thank President Chen and all of you for considering me as a Joint Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the upcoming school year. As an incoming freshman, I was selected for a program organized by the Center for Diversity and Inclusion called STEP, a summer program intended to benefit first-generation, low-income, LGBTQ+, and/or students of color. This program allowed me to join a resilient community, unlike any other on this campus. A year later, I was selected to serve as a student mentor for the same program. The STEP program instilled in me a desire to use my personal experience as a means of giving back and aiding incoming students with which I share a similar background and experience. Both the process of completing this program and mentoring others through it has helped remind me of why I came to AU in the first place. To encourage students from backgrounds like mine that against all odds, we have a place in higher education. My prior involvement in the STEP program highlights my efforts to support marginalized communities on this campus, and I plan to do just that in President Chen's cabinet, if confirmed today. As a student organizer on this campus, I know that the greatest part of this role entails listening and bearing witness to the daily efforts of marginalized students on AU's campus. While on the Women's Initiative Executive Board, I learned to prioritize responsive programming. That is, programming that addresses the needs of the community, acknowledges past harm done, and maps out the steps necessary to heal. AU's most recent incident of blatant racism, a video of a white student using the N-word, has called conversations to take place campus-wide. However, it should not require a video like this to provoke campus outrage when there are student groups that are committed to having these conversations, regardless of whether or not a racist incident makes headlines. That is simply not right. Every day, marginalized students on this campus face blatant and overt racism, both on and off camera, by students in the residence halls and professors in the classroom. Traditionally, the AU administration and even AUSG release a statement immediately following a racist event, and as time passes, the issue goes forgotten. However, the communities affected do not forget, and through this position, I intend to ensure that the rest of the campus does not forget. While statements of support are important, they are not sufficient. I do commend this body for not only speaking up against the most recent racial incident, but also proposing tangible change through the conduct code. We have the opportunity to end the tradition of releasing statements of support and instead make necessary space for the voices of marginalized students on this campus to ensure that they feel respected, valued, and above all else, safe on this campus. This role is by and large about working with the community, building community, and healing it. As a member of affinity groups and other student organizations on this campus, I can attest to the fact that our biggest struggle is often over where we can find adequate support and resources for our cause. While in this position, I hope to strengthen relationships with student organizers already committed to equity and inclusion work on this campus by listening and aiding them in their advocacy, as to not speak for them. I also hope to mediate any disconnect that may exist between student groups and student government. At the end of the day, student leaders need to know we're on their side. We work for them and we want them to succeed. Should the AUSG confirm my nomination, AUSG Senate confirm my nomination, I remain committed to working with students and bridging many gaps between students and our administration. I'm gonna call her on.
You're gonna have to probably use your laptop.
Okay.
Because if you're gonna try and live stream, it'll probably ruin the cameras.
Okay. Do you think people are gonna be able to hear her from my laptop or cover?
Yeah, but she's
No.
Do you have? Bring it over here. I can plug it in. Because you have a. Yeah, perfect.
Awesome, thank you. Oh. Okay. So I think my computer. Okay. Give me one second. Is there an outlet here?
What?
Okay. Should I try video? Okay, we're gonna try it. Oh, there we go. Hi.
Hello.
Okay, perfect. So let me, should I, what?
You should make it so they.
How do I enter full screen? Okay, okay. And then, oh, what?
Oh, you can't.
Yeah, because it's a laptop.
You can turn it
Okay.
Put it.
Okay, it's fine.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Plug it back in. Did your computer? Oh, there. Okay, we're good.
Trevor, you're gonna kill me.
Just tilt your screen down. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, questions. Jacob.
No, I was just seeing if they could see my camera.
Questions for the nominee. Piper.
So Christina, can you hear me? Yeah, it looks. Yes, I think so. Okay, I'll try and talk louder.
I can repeat it if you need to.
This is so weird, sorry. You talked about making like tangible change after, the continuous racist events occur on campus. What does tangible change mean to you? What does that look like?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
What is,
Trevor, do you wanna
in,
go up there?
in your speech, you mentioned you want to see tangible change. What does that look like, actually?
So I think that it looks like a lot of things, and I think depending on who you ask on this campus, they might have very strong opinions about what it looks like, or, just kind of not really sure. I think that in order to sort of find what change really needs to happen, it's gotta come from the community. Like, it's gotta be a campus conversation, the response really has to come from AU's various communities, right? Because by and large, we are the AU community, but we all know that within the AU community, there are very many different student voices. And the answer, truly is, change looks like a lot of different things. And I think that, if appointed to this role, part of what I really want to do is get to know, ways that we can get there. I want to listen to what students have to say and really hear the things that they want to see happen on this campus, right? Because it's not just me on this campus versus you on this campus. We all coexist in this space. And, if we want to heal our community of a lot of, the discrimination, the racism, and xenophobia, homophobia, etc., that exists on it, we've got to rethink and sort of reimagine what these campus spaces would look like if we were to implement, various forms of radical change. I don't know if I expressed that properly, but.
Parker?
How do you feel about the Inclusive Excellence Plan, and also how would you work with the President's Council?
Come on, that question.
Did you hear that?
No, I'm sorry, my service is not the
No,
best.
you're good.
How do you feel about the Inclusive Excellence Plan, and how would you work with the President's Council on Diversity and Inclusion?
How do I feel about what?
The Inclusive Excellence Plan, and how would you work with the President's Council?
Yes, so I think that when any constructive policy is being implemented for the first time, that's new, above all else, we need to be getting various student perspectives on it. And within this role, I want to work with students. I want to be representative of the various concerns that they have. So I think where I would really start, especially since I would be new to this role, is by conducting sort of an on-campus dialogue program or event, something where students can come in and they can sort of talk about what they want to see out of the implementation of the plan and the policy, their thoughts, their criticisms, because then and only then I think I would really be able to know or to be able to gauge only by hearing the voices of student organizers, etc., how they feel about the plan and if it is sufficient in what it seeks to do.
Terry?
To speak up on what kind of positions you have that would help you be a DEI director. Just any positions that would help you and how you would use those previous experiences that you had to fulfill your position.
What kind of previous positions have you had that would help you in this role as DEI joint director?
So as Angela mentioned in my speech, I do have a bit of a background with the Center for Diversity and Inclusion, both going through this summer transition enrichment program as an incoming freshman and having the privilege to have been sort of on the other side of that program as a student mentor and guide for incoming students. So I think that has really given me a constructive base on which to organize, definitely on this campus. I think that the work that CDI does is very necessary. I think it's responsive, which also leads me to my work in WI, which has really just fundamentally changed my role on AU's campus.
because above all else, Women's Initiative really values responsive programming. It really recognizes, we need to hear from the community in order to build programming that directly responds to the needs of the community. During my time in WI, I held an open campus dialogue that was called How to Be an Ally to Women of Color. And it was really nice. We had a great turnout, a lot more people than I was definitely expecting. I was a freshman at the time. It was my first time hosting like an event of the sort, and to have people come in, share their experiences, really talk with like allies to say like, hey, this is what we need. This is the sort of thing that like we want to see out of allyship and out of really just like, allyship in this community. Was really great. And I would say, overall, like, the organizations that I've had the privilege of being a part of on AU's campus have really valued, like, community feedback and community building and bonding. And they continually, value finding new creative ways to sort of bridge gaps between different student groups and also, build upon, like, critical conversations.
Time for questioning has elapsed. Sean,
I motion to extend questioning by 5 minutes.
is there a second? I hear a second. All those in favor of extending by 5 minutes say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. In the chair, the yeas have it. Questioning has been extended. Sean?
Hi, Christina. So how would you increase accessibility for different students on campus, especially in light of the recent racist incident? So that accessibility to include the counseling center, K Spiritual Life Center, the Dean of Students. So my first question is, how would you increase accessibility for students? And then my second question is, how would you work with the bias working group in order to promote that accessibility?
Okay, sorry, forgive me. I know your question is about accessibility, but I missed a few things. Would you mind repeating it?
And then my second question is, how would you work with the bias working group to help also foster that accessibility?
Okay. Sorry, can someone who's closer to the screen, like,
Yeah, you might as well come up here because I don't want to like.
I'm so sorry, guys.
No, you're good. It's multiple. Just let you say it. Yeah, just say it.
Okay. Yeah. So my first question was, how would you increase accessibility for students, especially in light of the recent racist incident? And then my second question would be, how would you work with the bias working group in order to promote that accessibility?
Right. So you brought up the most recent racist incident. I saw it when it was first posted on Twitter, like within, maybe 20 minutes of it having been posted. And the comment that was on the video was, "This is why I don't feel safe at AU," or something along those lines. And I really think that when we have students who are being the subjects of, racist incidents, who are living in student housing, who are living, in the res homes, like we have to remember like that this is like its own community, right? And if racist incidents are happening and they're making students feel unsafe, then I think, it's absolutely reasonable to say we don't want this person living in this community. Because, on the issue of like accessibility, like everyone needs to feel safe in the place that they're living. Like, that's just a very basic, that's just like a fundamental part of like feeling safe, like in a community. Is like, can I trust those around me? Can I know, can I walk around the rest house without, worrying about my own safety? So I definitely think that, again, the response has to come from the community and really just listening to like student voices. I mean, it's completely valid to say, I don't feel safe with this person coexisting, like living in the rest house with someone who, is racist, homophobic, xenophobic, bigoted, etc.
Other Max.
Pretty just simply, what are you going to ensure to do to ensure that this is really, you're doing a really good job in this position and that you're actually having tangible, successful results and that this isn't just like a point position that doesn't really accomplish a huge amount?
You might want to just come up here. That's just easier.
What are you going to do to ensure that your filling this position is going to actually have some pretty tangible, successful results and make, progressive strides, and not just be filling a position that doesn't actually accomplish anything? That's not meant. That sounds a little accusatory. It's totally not meant to be that, but I think that has happened in certain things.
I appreciate the question. So you're basically asking like, how do I plan on like making real change within this role?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, as someone who has been sort of like a campus organizer through Women's Initiative for the past 2 years now, if you were to ask me, like, while I was programming, like, the last event that I helped plan, like, while I was in WY last semester before I went abroad, like, while I was planning an event, like, what would have helped me the most? I would have definitely said finding resources and sponsorships. Because a big part of getting students to show up at events and at, even like AUSG sponsored like programming is like getting the word out. So I really think that the main thing I want to focus on within this role is helping other affinity groups and student organizations who are actually like doing the work, that they're, that students know that this stuff is going on. I feel like on this campus, every day I have conversations with people where I was like, oh yeah, like, I was just at this like sister event, and they're like, oh, like, what is that? Like, they've never heard of like, certain organizations that exist on this campus and that produce like amazing work, like consistently. And I think, should I be appointed to this role, it would be a huge privilege to be able to work directly with campus organizers and be like, let's make this event happen. Let's get this dialogue to happen. Like, let's put in the work. Let's get people to show out. Like, I think that would be the biggest fundamental change that I could see within this role, because it's also not about like overshadowing other people, like people's programming. Like, it's not like AUSG just has to have its own programming and have other people sponsor it. Like, I think it's also really, and that's important too, don't get me wrong, but like I also think that it's very important to recognize, especially within this role within student government, to recognize the work that people are working hard on and that does go on in this campus that often gets like undervalued or not recognized, or I think we have a real opportunity to build community in that sense.
Parker? Yeah.
I wanted to ask you more about the Inclusive Excellence Plan, and just about sort of the specifics of it and what you think the strengths and weaknesses are. And of course, because it only talks about this year and the upcoming year, how would you as DEI director work to figure out the goals and assigning responsibilities to various organizations for the Inclusive Excellence Plan in the 2020 to 21 year?
Well, I think that, it's very easy to use diversity and inclusion as buzzwords. And I think, with every new racist incident that happens on this campus, students, are not satisfied with an inclusive excellence plan that clearly has not yet made fundamental changes, like in spaces that exist on this campus. So I would say I think it needs to be reimagined in a sense. I think that we need to take another look at it. And that's not to say, that it didn't have good intentions originally or that it's not sufficient or anything. But, every time there's a new incident that is racist or harmful to the community in any other, function, we do kind of have to look back at, you know, these policy proposals and remember that they have real impacts on people's lives, you know? They affect people's livelihood on this campus, their safety, you know. We want students with marginalized identities to feel accepted and above all else respected members, you know, of this community. And I think that if we want to implement policy that really does achieve that, students need to be with us like 100% along the way. Like, I think that dialogue programs above all else really allow students to speak freely and without fear of retribution about their experiences on campus and spaces that exist outside of it. So if you'd ask me personally, I think, you know, as people who make policies that, you know, are supposed to have positive impact on this campus, like, we constantly need to be challenging ourselves, and sort of, you know, really reminding ourselves, like, what are people getting out of this policy, and is it going to be tangible, and are we going to see results? And we're not going to know, you know, what kinds of things will make fundamental change unless we ask the people who are being directly affected by it. So I think, you know, incorporating community is always the way to go in instances like this.
Questioning has elapsed. Seeing.
Can we ask more?
Yeah, you could extend the questioning.
I want to make it.
Motion to extend the motion.
All right, yeah, I'd like to motion to extend the question by 5 minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
I hear a second. All those in favor of extending by 5 minutes, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. The chair, the ayes have it, and questioning has been extended. Raphael?
Hi, I'm Raphael. I'm the current DEI director. I've been for a year and a half. I sit on the President's Council for Diversity and Inclusion. Kind of have two questions. One, I think, what do you think the term diversity and inclusion, what does that capture in terms of what kind of communities you think needs to be outreach to with this role? And then I also think, what do you think, since you'll be sitting on the President's Council for Diversity and Inclusion, the Student Advisory Committee to it, what do you think some things that they need to do are to move forward with the work? And what connections do you have to people doing the work currently, both university administration and students, that you can leverage? What relationships do you have?
Yes. So your first question was which communities, you know, need to be reached out to. Or I know that was part of it, sorry.
Yeah.
And I think first and foremost, it needs to be the Black community on this campus. They were most directly the subject of the most recent racist attack. And, you know, from what I have seen through my work in WI, we do a lot of co-sponsorships with Sister System or the NAACP, also the Center for Diversity and Inclusion. We need to really work with them and listen to them and hear their concerns. Because all these racist incidents affect our campus community as a whole. But it is really, we need to really recognize and validate that the Black community is most harmed in this incident. And we need to make sure that their voices are being heard and that we're working with them to ensure that AU isn't a campus that just has repeated racist incidents one after another. You know, I feel like since I've been a freshman here at AU, there has been a racist incident almost at least one per semester. So I think that the Black community actually needs to be prioritized in conversations around racism on this campus, etc. And then, sorry, remind me the second part of your question.
Just any relationships that you have with people already doing the work on the campus.
Oh yeah, all my amazing pals at the Women's Initiative. You know, I really think that Women's Initiative within AUSG is an amazing organization that's both given me like a community on this campus, and everyone who is sort of like on the WI team really works to make as many sponsorships possible. Just this past semester, I was the editor of a publication that we had just launched called Elbow Room. I was directly involved in a lot of sponsorship work through that, getting people, to email and get the word out. Most of the sponsorships that happen in Women's Initiative are done like very organically, and it's literally just by like sending out emails and by word of mouth. And I think the biggest part is actually showing up to the events of other organizations. That is the number one way you're gonna build allyship and build real connections. It's like, hey, you show up for me, I'll show up for you. That's what being a community means. So like, I can definitely like give you a laundry list of the organizations on this campus that are doing amazing work. NAACP, Sister Students Against Sexual Violence, Latin American Student Organization, and please know that I have like a mountain list of more organizations. But I also think that a big part of this role is showing up to their events and helping them, in any assistance. Like, I know that there's a saying that's like 90% of college is just showing up. Like, it's the same thing in life in general. Like, you show up for other people and, you really build connections that way.
Question has elapsed. See nothing. Thank you. You got them.
Yeah, I got you. Bye, Christina. See you later. Bye.
All right, we'll move to
Sorry.
discussion on the nominee. Sean?
Okay, so I don't dispute her experience at all. I'm sure she has valid experience in diversity and inclusion. However, I did not see that translate effectively in our question period. She failed to answer Senator Butler's question on the inclusive excellence plan. I feel as though she did not effectively answer my question on how to expand accessibility, nor did she answer my question regarding the bias working group. And I think, as Raphael mentioned at the beginning of our session, this is a crucial job, and it's necessary that we have an individual who is more than prepared to assume the mantle that this role weighs. And I respectfully just did not see that in this question period, in this nomination process.
Parker?
Yeah, I definitely echo that. I know I speak for Lisa as well, right now, as well as Sean, that we sat in on meetings with administrators when it comes to issues of diversity, and they always talk about the plan as the roadmap for what they're talking about is the way in which they bring different organizations together to work towards the same goals. And I just worry about the lack of specifics that were brought up here. Again, I don't doubt her intentions at all. And I also would just keep in mind that, this is a co-directorship. And so, I just worry about the specific knowledge that she has about AU and how, because DEI works with the administration and work with SG. This is a lot of behind the scenes and working stuff. And I'm concerned.
Jacob?
Just be curious to hear from President Chen about why she picked, like what you saw in her application. If you can also, I don't know if you're able to do this, but speak a little bit like how many applications you received overall, and then like why Christina was chosen over other nominees.
Yeah, can I just go?
Mhm.
Okay. So I think that if you know me, you know that I'm someone that's very open to criticism and also someone that takes criticism very personally, and I try my best to incorporate what other people say that I need to work on within like myself as much as I can. And I think one thing that was called out upon myself during my campaign often is that I was not communicating with the multicultural organizations on this campus, even groups on this campus, and I completely recognize that, and I don't want to be someone that is using AUSG to basically take credit for work that organizations have long since been doing and have long since been working on. I think that Christina really embodied that aspect that people have specifically criticized me for in the past. I think that when I interviewed her, what she really emphasized is that there are some organizations on this campus that I've witnessed myself, that I've witnessed firsthand, that I have friends in, that I know have been doing the work that AUSG is just now realizing are problems. And I think that that's something important to consider. She said, I think that's something important to consider when we do what she said in her speech is responsible programming, is that we're considering that other student organizations have long since been working on these same projects, and that we are not the originators of these ideas, nor are we like the savior that's going to come in and help students come out of this campus because of X, Y, Z reason. So that specifically made her stood out to me. I would also just like I only got, I think, I just broke, I can reach my email, but I think I only got 4 applications for DI director. So like with that said, like if there are specific people that like you had in mind for the position, or if there's someone that you thought would have been better, I only had 4 people apply, and I really pursued it out because she addressed the aspect of my campaign, and I think of what I previously thought about DEI, that I understand like what's wrong with the way that I thought about it, and I think that she addresses exactly the way that I would like DEI to think, is that there's organizations on campus that are already doing this work, so let's program with them. And I also think that Christina was very modest both in her speech and in her question and answer. Like she was the one who pitched the idea for elbow room, like she worked very hard on that, and I think that is an example of an initiative. And I don't think that Christina is necessarily the archetype of what you see in USG. I don't think she's necessarily hard spoken. I don't think she's necessarily the type of person that you see normally in AUSG. And I think that's because that's like the appearance of someone who's like strong and like whatever it is that you think of when you think of AUSG. I don't think Christina is that. And I think that also makes her stand out to me, because I think that she's very passionate about the work that she does, and I think she puts in a lot of hours the work that she does.
Okay.
You two hit it on the nail. This person in the job description, one of them, now that they're joined, I don't know which one it will be, will sit on the student advisory committee to the President's Council on Diversity and Inclusion. The main task of that council is the Inclusive Excellence Plan. And I agree with you from the answers that she gave, I don't even think she's ever read it or even looked at the brief summary. So I think, one, that's a big problem. I agree with Angela's point, and I liked her response about working with student orgs. I think she has that aspect of it down, and that's how she should do the work. And I'm not gonna discredit her experience, but a little bit I don't think that when I asked about relationships that she has with people doing this work on campus, the only person she gave me was WI. WI does great work on an aspect of diversity and inclusion in terms of women's outreach, right? In terms of all of that. But there are vast many people doing this work in higher administration. There's a person's role who this is in the administration who does this work. There's a President's Council, there's a student advisory committee. There's a lot of people who I think she missed a lot of marks in terms of knowing her stuff. And I think it's important that we have someone who knows what's guiding this campus's work on diversity and inclusion. And look, SG's job is not, this role is not confined by the Inclusive Excellence Plan, but the role that she has also sits somewhere else that is. And so, and I think, and to not have any connections and to only have that step experience in terms of experience doing diversity and inclusion work, I think is lacking.
Eric?
I also just want to emphasize that I generally find, but again, voicing in that she was very vague in terms of, again, the Inclusive Excellence Plan. But also, I just want to emphasize that since there are going to be 2 DEI directors, I don't think they would have to say, like, I don't think she would have, like, shared a half of the responsibility to stay DEI director, just because it's just really unfortunate, because it just really didn't seem like that she was prepared to answer the questions. And I feel like that's like a minimum thing that you should do when you may run for such kind of position, since it is such a vital and important position.
Jacob.
I want to echo everything that's been said today. I think going to what Angela was saying, I think it's great that she recognizes that people have been doing the work for a while. Like none of these kinds of conversations are particularly new. But I guess the concern that I have is just that there's not like that intentional. Like so, people have been doing the work. Like, what is the next step after that? I think it's hard because what we have to decide as a body is whether or not somebody has the qualifications and or whether or not it's better if they can learn on the job. I'm personally of the mind that if you're learning on the job, it's a little risky because number one, you're getting paid, and these are people's this is like a really big issue on campus. But by the same token, it's always hard because we don't want to be excluding somebody who actually really wants to be doing important work. So I don't know. I'm of two minds at this point. And to be quite frank, the debates from both sides haven't swayed me at all. I don't know how I'm leaning. Start with that. Anybody else?
Mulan.
So if I remember anything from my time in Senate last year, we've spent about 15 minutes questioning Christina. And I completely understand it. Like, you guys are senators, I get it. But we have 3 other executive board cabinets that we have to get through. And I'm not saying that we need to stop talking about the work that DEI does. I think it's very important, but I think we also need to look at the other candidates to see if they're even also qualified as well to take on this role. Because if they happen to not be qualified and you guys also vote against Christina, then we have to let President Chen know that those 2 candidates are not good and she needs to look at other things. So I'm not saying, to stop the conversation on revolving around, but I need to understand that it's about to hit 4 o'clock and we still have not even made it through half of the confirmations. So I'm just saying, if you guys are looking to not appoint this person, then to do so in your voting period, and then to move it forward and looking at the other candidates and other candidates, just for time and everything like that, because it's going to be a long day. Like, we're probably not going to get out of here until 7 o'clock if we're moving in this momentum that we're doing now. And I'm not saying that we need to stop the work of diversity, equity, inclusion, because it's important to me as a Black person, but we just need to move this along. So,
point of order. Is it like can we table a confirmation? Can we just table this, move on, or does it have to be voted on now?
You can table it. Jacob.
Make a motion to table this nomination.
Is there a second? Do we have an increase? Yes. What do you mean? It's being okay. So it's being tabled, and then y'all can determine when to take it back off the table.
It's indefinite until someone raises it back up.
Yeah.
So you can raise it. Anyone second?
No.
I'll speak to this.
I haven't heard a second yet.
Motion to vote.
There was a second.
Oh, whoa. Hold up. Who yelled that out? Hey, hold on. Is there a second to the table motion?
Second.
Okay, there's a second. So now we have to consider this. Discussion on this motion.
I just want to echo what Mulan was saying. We have a lot to get through today. It seems as though there are genuine concerns about this person's ability to oversee the office which they're about to take. And number one, this person is getting paid. And number two, we have a lot to do today. So I'm not saying we just vote them down today. What I'm saying is that we should, if we really want to keep having these conversations, we should table this nomination, and we gotta decide at the very end whether we want to bring it up again. But in deference to everyone else's time, we've got to move on. And I don't feel like there's a consensus in the room unless we want to really take it to a vote.
Parker.
I think we should table it until after the next director nominee comes up, and then we can see, if it is a co-directorship, and see how that works.
Great, so we table it definitely.
Further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All those in favor of tabling this nomination, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. In the chair, the ayes have it. It is tabled. And we'll move on to the confirmation of Diamond Terrell to be a joint director of diversity and inclusion.
Hi everyone, my name is Diamond Stroh, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm so excited to be with you all today, and I'd like to thank President Chud for giving me the opportunity to be considered as one of the joint directors of diversity, equity, and inclusion. As an active first-year student, I've been able to listen critically to other first years, specifically marginalized students who have gone through many similar experiences as I have. I believe being a first-year student gives me an extremely unique perspective. If appointed to this role, I will make it my top priority to listen and to be a fearless advocate for these communities, especially behind closed doors. While being an active member of AB Democrats and now most recently elected vice president of the organization, I've learned firsthand the importance of programming, specifically advocacy, that will help shed light on communities that are often overlooked. We're not just going to slap our AUSG logo on event banners and call that a partnership with multicultural organizations. We must expect more and hold ourselves accountable. Essentially, in light of recent events occurring on campus, I believe it is extremely important we address one thing. This campus is simply not a community if students of color don't feel safe and respected. There is no community if we have our students not feeling respected and valued. We cannot just start paying attention once someone commits a racist act on this campus. As we all know, these acts of racism towards these groups are not isolated, and as a student government, we must unite and ensure we are supporting and giving adequate resources to these students consistently throughout the year. One of AUSG's sole purpose is to be the students' #1 supporter, especially when nobody is watching. I plan to reach out to multicultural organizations early on in the year. As a student government, we must do more and continue to address the needs of the community and acknowledge that their pain isn't something that can magically disappear overnight. With the platform and honor we have to be so connected with various departments within the administration, we must utilize it to ensure that underrepresented voices are being heard at the table. One idea in particular that I'm extremely passionate about potentially coordinating is a first-generation college fair for students. And while I know I cannot speak on behalf of every single marginalized community, I will work tirelessly alongside my co-director to ensure we work towards being well-connected and supporting the community groups on this campus. Furthermore, another thing I'd like to mention is the terms diversity and inclusivity cannot just be treated as buzzwords. We must practice what we preach. We must step up to the plate and work together to ensure we are prioritizing these voices and giving them a platform to discuss themselves, especially at a predominantly white university. I also want to work closely with the President's Council on Diversity and Inclusion and the administration, that overlook to coordinate SG and administrative efforts. The Inclusive Excellence Plan gives us a broad roadmap with assigned responsibilities next year, and I will work closely to see that is accomplished. However, the Inclusive Excellence Plan does not include the year after the next. DEI can play an essential role in analyzing and planning a role in drafting the future of the Excellence Plan. One aspect of the Inclusive Excellence Plan that I like in particular is Goal 3, that's focused on systems, policies, and procedures, that is focused on facilitating inclusion, transparency, and accountability for students and faculty. Just as this plan is emphasized, this is an ever-changing process. We must continue to evaluate and communicate changes within the community. One thing I've also noticed is that there is a lot of departments and other entities that all have good intentions but operate within their own. I want to coordinate all the work of these organizations and use DEI's unique reputation to do that. Overall, when reflecting on my first year here at American, especially as a first-generation low-income student, I learned the value in utilizing my privilege to help support students just like me in higher education. Sorry, I'm determined and eager to continue to elevate voices to the table. I will also make it a priority of mine to attend a diversity and inclusion committee within the Undergraduate Senate to ensure we are in constant collaboration with one another. I would also like to work alongside the speaker to encourage the Senate to make a DEI a standing committee rather than a special committee. Should AUSG give me the opportunity to serve in this capacity, I look forward to working alongside the Undergraduate Senate.
Questions for the nominee?
Broadly speaking, like, how do you deal with conflict resolution and working with people?
Like, can you elaborate more on that? Like,
just like in general, I want like you to like elaborate more on like how like you'll work with the groups or just like different initiatives, like what your style is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, early on, I definitely plan on being in contact with the undergraduate senate and multicultural groups from the beginning. And once we are able to like build that connection early on, I think it'll become easier to work alongside each other throughout the school year. I don't think if I reach out to them in December or something, I don't think we'll actually be able to work alongside each other. I think it's building that relationship from the get-go. That's where we're going to be able to actually make impactful change.
Piper?
What does success as director of DEI look like to you if you were gonna be a director today and confirm this position?
I think success would mean to me ensuring that as many voices are being brought to the table as possible and starting early on and making sure that I'm consistently reaching out to the undergraduate senate, the speaker, and making sure these voices are heard, because I feel like often these voices are clearly overlooked, and I think it's extremely important that we just build a connection early. And if I'm able to do that, I think that will be a successful year for me.
Other questions? Curtis?
Donovan, who's someone in the university administration goes to and talk about diversity?
Thank you so much for the question, Senator. Someone I've already been in discussion with is Dr. Fana Ah. I've been talking to her since the beginning of the semester about diversity and inclusion. So that's someone that I honestly hold near and dear to my heart, and that's someone I will continue to build a relationship with if I give the opportunity to pursue this role.
Sean?
So just to touch on our discussion back in CRP, how would you work with affinity groups, as well as the cultural department to get them the necessary funding that they need in order to their programming and do more recurrence on campus?
Yeah, thank you so much, Senator. I would definitely try to focus on the community fund and reaching out and working alongside the comptroller cabinet early on and making sure that we have a concise plan regarding the community fund and hopefully trying to possibly expand that. I honestly have to educate myself more and figure out more about how that would exactly go, but that's definitely a plan of mine I hope to accomplish.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you. If you won't mind leaving the room. Parker?
I was gonna ask her the same question that I asked Christina about inclusive excellence plan, but I was glad that she brought it up in her speech. I was even more glad that she cited specific aspects that she likes about it. So I think, yeah.
Angela?
I just think that what I'm gonna say about the joint directorship is that I love Diamond. Obviously, I think she's of the utmost quality. I think she'd be amazing in this position. At the same time, I don't feel comfortable having her be the only transgender recipient of inclusion. And having been president of AU Dems, Diamond's the vice president of AU Dems. There will be weeks where she will not be able to work on this position at all, like straight up. Like there were several stretches of time this year where I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything in Greek life for involved. I couldn't do anything in professional Greek life. I couldn't do anything with my friends because I was committed to AU Dems and I had things to do for AU Dems and I was simply too busy to be doing anything else. So the idea of having Diamond as the sole diversity and equity inclusion for like any period of time is extremely concerning to me, just because it's not that I'm not going to say, I don't think it's fair to ask Diamond to say this is going to be her first priority when she has something else that she was elected to, a body that she needs to be committed to, and a group of students that are depending on her to put out consistent and high quality programming for one of the biggest organizations on this campus. Like speaking as someone who's been on the board of that organization twice, it's a massive time commitment, like 10 to 15 hours. And I don't think that I would be comfortable having her be the only one position. So like do keep that in mind. Like if you're gonna confirm one of them and not the other, like that's just my personal opinion, that would be doing a disservice to students, because you're gonna have someone that isn't gonna be, not to her, like not to fault her at all, but like just because of the things that she's committed to, not going to be able to be fully committed to this position at all times. And that's fine, and like that's the reality of multiple commitments, but like just something to keep in mind.
Other discussion?
President Chen, I just have a question on that because I understand what you were saying. What if Diamond was the director and then we had the other nominee as a deputy director? Do you think that in those instances, like 49, would it be able to fully do it? Could
think that's a very, like, I mean, I think that's a good suggestion. That's something that I definitely thought about a lot during this process of nominating them. I ultimately think that Diamond and Christina have like kind of different views of what the position is, and that's not a bad thing. Like, I want to point out that's not a bad thing. Like, Christina is very focused on listening to students and listening to student organizations, while I think Diamond is more focused on programming and the programming aspect of DEI, and I think those are two very separate roles that are equally important to me. Like, if I just think that if I were to say, oh, Christina, like for this reason, like I would like to be a deputy, I think that was the notion that student organizations' voices are important, need to be heard at like a second-hand level. And I also just think that, yeah, like, to be honest, like this idea, like I had a conversation with Diamond about her realistic time commitment, and Diamond is one of the most committed people I know. She was like, I will put my academics on the back burner, I will put everything else on the back burner for this, but I'm not gonna put like AUDEMS on the back burner. And that's fair. And I know because she should have to, like as someone who's involved in AUDEMS and other things as well. But at the end of the day, like the workload that I would want this director to be doing is not something that I think Diamond by herself could fulfill. And I think I'm open to the idea of a deputy. Like, I think we just have to have a conversation about like what the stipends look like, especially because we already passed the budget. I'm definitely not opposed to the idea, but that was kind of my reasoning of why I wanted joint directors, just mainly because I'm concerned about the time limit, and I've expressed this to them before. Like, I told her that the only way that I would be comfortable nominating her is if it was a joint directorship.
Parker?
I totally hear that. I think that makes perfect sense. But I would also just note that like the DI director creates their own team, and obviously the president has to say in that as well. And so when we talk about that, it's a question of, well, if it's a co-directorship, what would that look like? Who would be the co-director? And I don't think that, again, I don't doubt Christina's intentions at all, but I just don't think that she gave the kind of answers that weren't being given the co-directorship. So if there is going to be a co-director, I just don't think it should be her, at least at this time. And also, full disclosure, I know Diamond personally, and so I know her work ethic. I don't think that there's going to be any issue with that. She has, as you said, she's very committed to ADMs, there's no doubt about that. The DEI director has a team, and she is one of the most passionate people I know when it comes to diversity and inclusion. She goes off all the time with me. We have lots of very intense discussions. I think this would be, just to be frank, I think this is the perfect.
Raphael?
I just was wondering why was she asked a lot of questions similar to the other one?
She wasn't asking any questions because I think she gave more specific answers.
Okay, cool. I was just curious. Okay.
Other points of discussion on the nominee? Yeah.
I think Angela's point about if we're thinking about workload is important because this job does have a lot of workload, or at least in past administrations it has. So I think thinking about time commitment is important, and how much time and effort they can put into this, along with their other commitments, is definitely consideration on top of all of the other things that we're talking about.
Further discussion? Seeing none, yes.
I have another question. So if one of my candidates weren't to be confirmed, I wouldn't have joint directors for the summer, right? I would just have Diamond. If
Not for the summer, yeah.
Okay.
Unless the Senate, unless we can meet again, which is why I said
So that's like super unlikely, right? Because you would not be able to get quorum.
possibly. We can talk about that if we come across that situation. Okay, further discussion. Piper?
I think that Diamond's specificity in her speech really just showed her strengths for this position. And I think, like, I definitely hear what Angela's saying about the time commitment, but in the meantime, if people want to confirm Diamond, like, we need someone to be working on this over the summer and getting it together. And then if we can in the fall, hopefully confirm another person to help with the time commitment. But I mean, if this community values, diversity and equity and inclusion, then we need to be putting someone into the role in order to fill it. If we believe that we have a person strong enough to fill it. So I do think like we should confirm or at least vote for her now.
Further discussion? Angela?
I think this is the last comment I make about it, but I just think that out of the people I applied, I thought Christina and Diamond were the strongest candidates. So if we're thinking about like, if we were thinking about nominating someone else in the fall, we would have to reopen the application, which means that they wouldn't be appointed or past the first Senate date, which will already be in mid-September, I'm assuming, like not at the very beginning, not the first week during welcome week. So, I don't know, like, if you guys don't want two joint directors working on DI stuff for welcome week, then that is up to you, that is your vote, but also what I'm saying is, we would have to open up applications again, because of the people that applied, these are the two people that I thought were the most qualified. So I'm not gonna choose from that same pool again, if that makes sense, because if you guys didn't think Christina was qualified, then I don't think that you guys will think the other candidates are qualified either. Because out of those candidates, honestly, by resume, Christina is the most qualified. So those are just my thoughts, like, if you don't see fit the need for two joint directors up until maybe the end of September or even the next month, then that is up to you guys to vote. But that is my opinion, I think there needs to be two joint directors over the summer, I think there's enough work to be done for welcome week for incoming candidates to qualify for two joint directors, but again, it's up to you guys, it's your vote, so I think that's the last thing to say about it.
Jacob?
Yeah, I just want to say, once again, we're voting on just Diamond, we're not voting on Christina yet. And I think we're all in agreement that Diamond has the chops to do this job and to do it well. So with that, I'm motioning to close debate and move towards voting.
Is there a second? Is there discussion on closing debate? Seeing none, all those in favor of closing debate and moving to vote, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. Okay, making sure the yeas have it. All those in favor of confirming Diamond Terrell to be Joint Director of Diversity and Inclusion, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. In the chair, the yeas have it, and she's confirmed.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Question. We can bring up the table nomination anytime. It doesn't have to be directly after it's on the agenda anymore, so technically it's still tabled, correct?
Yes.
Just bring that up.
Okay. This one, yeah, this one. Sean?
I motion to take the nomination.
We want our conversation to be productive and also focus on the needs of what Angela has told us that she feels like needs to happen for it to be successful. So I'm just putting it out there that if we're gonna do this, there's a whole bunch of other nominees that need to be respectful of their time. We also want to make sure that this is an important role, but just put it out there.
Further discussion on removing the nomination from the table? Sean?
My only rationale for bringing it on the table now is there's a large likelihood of this remaining on the table until the fall semester. And regardless of how we vote on the nomination in the fall semester, if the nomination is voted down, then there would still be the need to send out a new application for a new joint director. So my rationale is to move forward with this now, that way we have more time to proceed forward.
Jacob?
I also just would like to point out that, if we decide to table this till the fall, we'll have the chance to meet Christina then. So like she can actually come to us. It's not like we're having to strain to make sure that we can hear her, not just kind of get out there for everybody.
I actually would rather leave it tabled and get through more confirmations, just in terms of why people are here right now.
Jordan?
I don't think we're doing Angela or Diamond any favors by tabling this into the fall. Let's say worst case, she doesn't get confirmed, and you're looking at another week going by, you have to open up the applications then instead of waiting the entire summer assuming, oh, I don't know if my co-director is gonna get confirmed or not. Let's say she doesn't, and you're looking, we could end up being a month into the semester. I don't think we're doing Angela a service at all, or Diamond for the potential co-director. I'd say no.
Sean?
I would just like the motion to close debate and move to voting on that motion.
Second.
There's a second. All those in favor of closing debate and moving to vote on the motion, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. In the chair, the ayes have it, so now discussion is closed. All those in favor of removing the nomination from the table, say, which means we'll consider it immediately, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay.
No.
Can someone call? The chair would look favorably upon
You can't determine.
a division.
You can just do it yourself.
I'm calling division. All of those in favor, please raise your hand. All those against, please raise your hand. Motion passes, reconsidering the nomination. So we already went through all of that, so we're back in the discussion portion of Christina. Discussion on the nominee. Sean?
In my view, we have the discussion prior to tabling it, so I would like to motion to close debate and move straight to vote.
Is there a second?
Second.
I hear a second. All those in favor of closing debate and moving to vote say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay.
No.
Being the chair, the yeas have it. So now we are voting on the confirmation. So all those in favor of confirming Christina to be Joint Director of Diversity and Inclusion say yay. All those opposed say nay. And being the chair, the yeas have it. And the confirmation fails. What? Did I say yay?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Nays, yeah, sorry. And being the chair, the nays have it, and the confirmation fails. So now we will move on to the confirmation of Cassandra Moore to be the case director.
Can I also just send you an email?
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
You can forward it to everyone. I have a memo, like strategic memo that I can pass around to everyone. I only have 10 copies because I did this in CPR, but I don't have a lot written down. Yeah. Okay. So I can pass. Okay. So there will be an email sent out with all, oh, it's up there too. Okay. So first off, I want to thank Angela for this nomination. I spent the majority of my college career thus far working for CASE, first as junior advocate, then advocate, and now my current position as chief advocate of academic affairs. I strongly believe that my experience, work ethic, and overarching desire to advocate and serve the student body makes me uniquely qualified to be director of CASE this coming year. I've worked in tandem with the administration on the reform of the Academic Integrity Code, which has provided me with valuable insight into CASE's responsibilities and the work that's required of this position. Indeed, my goals for CASE and vision for what I intend to accomplish is another reason why I believe you should confirm me. This past year, the administration has been revamping the sexual assault working group to streamline its work and also make it more inclusive, and I intend to prioritize its policy initiatives and the critical work that it does for our community. Furthermore, I aim to complete the reform of the Academic Integrity Code that we've been working on this past year at the administration, and finally, I'll work directly with campus partners such as the Center for Diversity and Inclusion to implement conduct code changes relating to bias incidents. On campus, in recent months, it's become more obvious that the administration could do much more to protect students of color and make them feel safe and welcome on campus. As director, I'd like to expand CASE's practice of holding policy forums by hosting a series of events in conjunction with student government to hear how students believe we can better advocate for them and provide them with greater protections through amendments to the Student Conduct Code. By no means is this an exhaustive list of the work I intend to do. However, I believe it provides me with a good outline of the impact I intend to have as director. Lastly, I must make it clear to you that I understand that it is my duty first and foremost to serve the student body. We've seen an increase in the number of cases that individuals come to our organization with, and I intend to overhaul the way in which we allocate those cases to our staff in order to ensure that we're serving our clients in a more efficient and timely manner. For example, I aim to create a series of Google Forms that will direct cases to the designated specialized chief advocate instead of requiring one individual to allocate those cases. Also, I'll rigorously enforce our new training requirements, and as it is our purpose to advocate and to provide assistance to the student body, I'm positive that making these changes will enable CASE to do its best. Essentially, what I hope you've heard here today is that I have tangible goals and visions for the future of CASE, as well as the necessary experience and passion to hold this position. I'm incredibly grateful for having me given this opportunity and will hold this position with honor and respect. I strive to continue the success of CASE, maintaining a communicative and symbiotic relationship with student government, while continuing our mission of serving the student body through policy work and advocacy. If at any point you need any additional information regarding CASE's work and goals, please reach out. As director of CASE, I promise to be diligent and transparent and hope to work in tandem with student government and the Senate. Thank you so much for your nomination, and should you have any questions, fire away.
Questions from the nominee? Mary?
I know that's super detailed, so thank you for that. I know you're super involved in like articles on campus. Can you talk a bit about your time commitment, and also if you are confirmed and this position, like how will you track your progress and report back to Senate? Yeah. So currently, I hold a position in my sorority on campus. And next year, I intend to intern as well. So
well, yes, I have other commitments. By no means does I think that make me any less willing or able to give like 20 hours a week to this position, because currently I'd argue I spend 15 hours a week on this position already, and what I do is chief advocate for academic affairs. And I really love the work we do, and I love working with case and serving students, and helping them on specific cases. Who was the other part of your question? Sorry.
Like kind of tracking your progress and reporting back to Senate.
Yes. Yeah, so from what I understand, from what Mr. and I've talked about a lot this past couple weeks, he reports to Senate. He tries to every other week, otherwise he can't come and send a proxy. We have a ton of new things coming out this next year. The academic integrity code, we hope to have that finished by, I would hope, the fall with the administration, assuming everything goes to plan with that. So like things like creating reports on those policy issues that we have going on, and other forms of reform that we want to do. I'd intend to come every week, and if, say, there's simply maybe nothing happening that week, the other week, bi-weekly, if necessary.
Other questions? Sean?
I know we touched on this in CRP, but could you just tell the student rights cards, how you plan to expand them, maintain them, et cetera?
Yes, I know we touched on that. And so they're currently still in Ohio at Will's Scarhouse house. So we are getting those as soon as possible. But what I want to do, I want to meet with Lisa Friedman at the early parts of the summer to expand where they're going to be on campus and like get that much more publicized so people can actually have those. Because currently we have it in a lot of buildings on campus, but we could do much more of that. We're more aware of it. Yeah. So I would like to do that early parts of the summer and also contact other chairs of schools on campus.
Curtis?
As case director, what methods or ways of communication would you employ to with the incoming students, first years and transfers, to make them aware of their student loan?
Yeah, so this is okay, we've been thinking about doing this for a little bit now, but Saran mentioned to me the idea of creating an app for students, which in all honesty would require a lot more money unless I could find someone that's able to do coding, to make an app like that. But that would be one specific goal that we could do, so people can be much more aware. I remember when I came to AU, not really knowing that case existed at all. So I think we could do more Eagle Summit, something with them, so people are aware that this is an organization we have and things that people are able to contact on campus for assistance. Also think I would like to work more with like deans within universities to make them more aware that they should publicize this to students, because I think if they only are when they've been charged with operation, and that's not exactly fair in my opinion.
Other questions?
Yeah, the $1,250 that's being allocated to case next year, what are some ways that you know that it was spent like this year? And is there any way that you could change? Like what exactly does that money go to, and would you change the way it's currently being allocated?
Yeah, so some of that goes to creating social media. So like touching on what he just asked there, I think a lot of that we could do more to like actually build much more of a platform to expand on social media. We also are going to definitely use a lot of that for the students' rights cards and making more of those. So there would be an expansion of that. So I think the current budget is great for that and would allow us to expand on social media, make us much more publicized and known on campus, and expand students' rights cards.
Questioning has elapsed. All right, thank you. Discussion on the nominee. Jacob?
Impressed. I asked her a bunch of questions during CRP, and she really knew what she was doing. I think CASE is one of the more important organizations under AUSG, and I think her experience and vision are sort of perfect with where we need to be. And so I'll be voting for her favorably.
Other points of discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote without objection. All those in favor of confirming Cassandra Moore to be case director, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. In the chair, the ayes have it, and she is confirmed. Now to the confirmation of Ryan Bardo to be chief of staff.
Dear Senator, please just I'll just pass these down.
Alright, so I ran a table. Anyone else? Oh, yeah. No. I got my rounds? Also going to time myself. Okay. Good. Yeah. All right. Well, hello everyone. My name is Ryan Barnett. My pronouns are he, him, and his. And I first just want to thank Speaker Pugh and the esteemed senators for allowing me to speak and be able to collaborate with you all for the first time on policy and strategy plan for the upcoming year. In order to share a little bit about myself, I'm first going to read a quote from one of my favorite people, especially in politics, AOC, which is, "You don't have to be perfect, but you do have to be 100% committed." I share this quote because it reminds me a lot of my background and my experiences in life. What I'm going to share takes a lot for me to say, and it's something I told very few people, including Sarah P. But it's important for you all to know in order to understand my character and dedication, especially as chief of staff. Growing up, I never had a strong support system, if any of that. My parents divorced when I was 2, but stayed together on and off until I was a sophomore in high school. Through this time, they constantly fought, abused each other, and the amount of time that was picked up by my grandparents or driven to their house by the police are too many to count. Along with this, my parents each had their own separate issues with addiction. My mom was both an alcoholic and a drug addict, always trying to use external sources to distract from her difficult life of working as a low-income waitress and being able to try to support her only family. And my dad was also an angry drunk and extremely abusive. This has forever affected my life, who I am as a person, and especially my time on this campus. However, it has taught me resilience and to always be 100% committed. As a first-generation low-income student, I did strive to attend college, but was never confident that it would be possible. So when I was accepted, I was nervous, but also completely joyed at the opportunity. Coming to AU, being able to escape from my so-called home, was one of the best experiences that happened to me. However, I quickly discovered that no matter how far away I was, the things I experienced did not go away, but only continued to affect me, especially as a new generation student and just a freshman in general. My mental health suffered, I was suicidal at points, and struggled to find community and support. Eventually, I was able to find this community among student leaders dedicated to the passion of advocacy. Within my first couple weeks of school, I attended a protest after bananas were thrown and left outside the dorm rooms of Black women on this campus. What did AU do? Release a statement. Through this expression of the student voice and after meeting student leaders, I decided I wanted to help be a part of this change that happens on this campus. As a result, I decided to join the Senate, like you all, and became president of Anderson Centennial Hall. Since then, I am currently the co-chair of conduct for the Center for Advocacy and Student Equity, a member of the Sexual Assault Working Group, and president of a first-generation advocacy chapter that will hopefully be established next semester. I've been a part of change, such as adding bias to the incidents of the conduct code for the first time ever, helping to create and implement student rights cards, allowing ROTC students to have academic priority registration, and most importantly, I've been able to develop partnerships and even friendships with student organizations and leaders on this campus. The most important thing that I have learned in all 3 years of being part of this advocacy is that AUSG Executive Board must never speak for any group or community, but instead work to advocate for the goals of each club, organization, student leader, and especially each of you sitting here today. When I was in the Senate as an eager freshman, the chief of staff originally spoke to all of us and offered to help us each with our goals. I, along with every other senator, met with him, but nothing happened. We were left out of decisions of advocacy, and thus the relationship between the executive board and the Senate faltered. If lucky enough to be confirmed by this body to be chief of staff, believe me, that will not happen. I will make myself not only available to each one of you, but will, through my past experience and knowledge of the networks of this university and the advocacy networks, help you meet each with your goals and make sure President Chen is constantly working towards the success of those plans, as well as you are consistently updated and a part of her advocacy agenda. In reality, you are the students on the ground, meeting with the most students every day, but yet bills and resolutions only go so far. I saw this body's resolution that calls for a further and much needed change to the conduct code to address racial incidents. I first want to commend each of you on this effort, especially Senator Jenkins, who's not here. And as someone who helped did cause this change, I will make sure that resolution comes into action, but it seems that Saran might have already done that. In general, overall, I've been fighting alongside supporting groups, individuals, and student leaders ever since I stepped foot on this campus. Not speaking for them, but standing with them and helping them in every way possible. This is the chief of staff I will be. I help President Chen, the executive board, student organizations, leaders, and especially all of you to the fullest of my ability. I have a plan, the experience, the passion, and my only goal since my freshman year is to see tangible change happen on this university so that any student, no matter the background or upbringing, can someday call AU their home. Thank you. Questions for the nominee? No, that was a lot. No questions? Curtis?
That's fine, thank you for sharing your story. And my question.
Thank you for letting me.
Yes, my question would be, you know, the partnership with the Senate is really important. So I guess, what ways do you envision President Chen and her cabinet would partner with the Senate in regards to advocacy of work?
Absolutely. So, I mean, speaking for specifically the President Chen's cabinet at advocacy, I think it's important to realize the bills and the legislation that's passed you, right? Well, I remember when I was a senator, you passed a bill and a resolution, you would hope that the executive board would maybe pick it up, that they would care about it, address the issue, but that never really happened. You know, like I said before, I met with multiple presidents, I met with the chief of staff, Speaker Pugh did when we were senators, and nothing came out of those meetings. You know, we felt that we were just a body here, that we were no good. For many students on this campus, especially for me, the first way we get a part of this advocacy, part of this change on campus, is by running to be a part of it, is being part of this body. It's one of the first things that are accessible to freshman students, especially to me. So the first thing I would do is meet with all of you. Hopefully, if you want to, reach out to me. I'm always available. Make policy agendas for you. Lead you in the right directions. Over my time, my 3 years being a part of this organization and a multitude of other organizations on campus, I have a wide variety of knowledge, which is kind of embarrassing. A lot about the university committees on campus, leadership, things that are important, things that have been done before and not have been transferred with. What I will say is you have the power to do things. You know, when I worked on, getting required registration for our TC students, the legislation was passed in 2011 and 2013 to give them prior registration. It took me finally, I didn't pass another bill. I just met and coordinated, with campus committees to make sure it happens. You have that power, but it could be more accessible to you if you have the doors open to you that the executive board has open to them.
Other questions? Seeing none.
I
Thank
guess the
you.
last thing I would say too is remember for all the nominees, I was sitting in the center here questioning nominees too, that they are all students too. You know what? They have not been in these positions before, and that they're willing to learn. I've never been a chief of staff before in this organization, but I'm willing to learn from the past chief of staff and experiences. So consider that when considering these nominations, but just because they don't have all the details right offhand doesn't mean that they're not capable. Thank you.
Discussion on the nominee. Curtis?
So Ryan really touched upon points of interest and concern for me, in particular when it comes to the relationship between our body, the Senate, and the executive board. Because sometimes it feels like, we go to any board member's office hours and we lay out a certain advocacy or policy goal, and we don't know where it goes after. We just simply talk or have a conversation with president, vice president, et cetera. And what Brian really addressed in his speech and also in his little outline here is that he wants to partner with the Senate in ways that, he's just as active as Madison Bowles, who served as Valentina's, chief of staff. Just by showing up, he has promised me that he will show up to our Senate meetings, and I think that's the first step. And also the second step is to open doors for senators to actually get involved with important issues like housing and housing. And I think, I hope Parker will speak to how, Valentina and her board and her chief of staff, how they together helped Parker to, have a door open where a member of student government, a member of this body, this undergraduate senate, got to have a seat on the dining committee. And I'm confident that Ryan will do a great job.
Other discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote without objection. All those in favor of confirming Ryan Barter to be the chief of staff, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. In the chair, the ayes have it, and he is confirmed. You go, Ryan. Yeah, so yeah, can you just tell him to come back in? Thank you.
Now your job is to reach out to me. Let's meet.
Moving to the confirmation of Amanda Kaufman to be the chief of operations.
Hello, my name is Amanda Kaufman, pronoun she, her, hers, and I'm running to Utah Energy Collaborations. Okay, so a hero of mine, Mae Jameson, the first Black woman to ever travel space, once said, quote, "The biggest challenge we all face is to learn about ourselves and understand our strengths and weaknesses. We need to utilize our strengths, but not so much that we don't work on our weaknesses." In outlining the goals that she wanted in her cabinet, Angela was able to identify that the management of internal affairs could potentially serve as an area of weakness that would serve as a barrier to office productivity. So this newly created position intends to address primarily internal weaknesses, which are often overlooked in order to ensure productivity. So this new position is an administrative role that focuses primarily on the internal affairs and day-to-day operations of the Office of the President. I intend to focus on office management through the creation of office calendars, the establishment of weekly team meetings, and through the systematic tracking of internal progress and productivity. Not only does this position seek to manage internal affairs, but it also is responsible for ensuring that the student body is active in whatever policy decision, etc., that stem from the Office of the President. So we all know that student government was established not to speak for the student body, but rather to elevate the voices of the students that we have been elected to serve. But how can we expect to cater to the needs of the students if we are ignorant to these same needs? And honestly, it's no secret that the relationship between AUSG and the student body has become increasingly more fractured in recent years. If you or I were to ask anyone on this campus, like, what does AUSG do for you? Name one thing AUSG has done for you. I think that we can agree that we would probably struggle to find someone who could answer in detail what AUSG has done for them, which is ridiculous because you guys don't spend every Sunday here putting all this work in for nothing. The student body just isn't aware of. So basically, this points to the lack of faith that the student body has in the ability of AUSG to enact tangible change or even represent the needs of students. And I believe the reasoning behind this is multifaceted. When students' only interaction with SG comes twice a year during campaign season, it's easy to see why SG has earned the representation of a powerless entity used by many as a resume. I am confident that increased and consistent transparency can help mend the reputation of SG. This organization at its core is good. It is filled with good people who not only desire to do good, but are actively writing legislation, creating events, and advocating on behalf of the student body. I intend to work closely with Angela and as well as James's cabinet to ensure that the work of the Office of the President is being communicated to students. I'm proposing the creation of a weekly newsletter, and this coupled with the increased utilization of social media that James and Hannah earlier proposed will play an essential role in rebuilding the fractured relationship that currently exists. However, this communication is a two-way street, so it is essential that the voices of students are given a platform with which they can be received, that students feel confident that SG not only hears their concerns, but listens to them. In my strategic proposal that I handed out, you'll find some of my ideas for establishing relationships with student orgs and leaders. For example, I intend to serve as a representative of the Office of the President by attending a minimum of 4 to 5 events or programs hosted by student organizations per month. And these plans that I mentioned and outlined are just intended to serve as a basic framework, but they're not static, they're dynamic, they can be changed and adapted to better suit the needs of the office.
Thank you. Questions for the nominee? Curtis?
Yes, Amanda, thank you for your speech, and I just had a question about, I guess, what do you think of our relationship with, I guess, between AU student government and student media, and how do you envision, working as a member of the Defense Cabinet with members of students?
Yeah, so I think that it's as this man here is from the Eagle. I think that it's very crucial that we acknowledge that there is a relationship already that exists and that we should capitalize on that and use that to our benefit to connect.
questions? Seeing none, thank you. Discussion on the nominee. Piper?
She seems kind of capable. I love that she put in the social media strategy and like just examples and stuff like that. Like that's great work that she already put in. So I think she'll do a great job.
Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote without objection. All those in favor of confirming Amanda Kaufman to be the Chief of Operations, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. In the chair, the ayes have it, and she is confirmed.
Someone do me a favor, just no one clap. I just really want
Please clap.
I know.
Moving to the confirmation of Mitchell Leneville to be the Director of Financial Aid and Affordability.
Good afternoon. My name is Mitchell Leneville and my pronouns are he, him, his. And I'm honored to have been selected for this position by the incoming president, Angela Check. Coming from a Pell eligible family, issues of affordability and financial aid have always been important to me. However, the issues became a strong focus of mine over the last year. My parents both worked long hours to keep our tiny family business open. When my brother decided to attend AU, the financial aid office cut my grant by 1/3, citing changes in the value of my family's only home. After hours of confusing phone calls, meetings, and mixed signals from every direction, the office told me I should be thankful that they didn't cut my aid more. I should be thankful they weren't asking for more money for the year of college I had already completed. My story isn't unique, and that's unfortunate. When I started sharing it, I heard horror stories from every direction. And this led me to realize the extent of the tuition crisis on AU's campus and the lack of support from the administration. Although AU has shown good faith to mitigate increases to tuition and costs, we should expect more. In the past, AUSG has played an important role in pushing for financial transparency. For example, in 2012, under President Yu's leadership, AU had the lowest tuition rate and the highest level of financial aid. So, it's fitting that this new cabinet will contain a dedicated director for this task. I've had a variety of campus and professional experiences that I think prepare me for this role. Currently, I'm the director of the Model G20 initiative, which is a policy-focused venture with over 35 staffers. Prior to coming to AU, I worked on a variety of campaigns, including managing 2 highly competitive races. As an RA, I developed strong working relationships with members of the AU administration, including the Campus of Office Life. And in my role on the Student Staff Advisory Council, I pushed on issues of affordability for the RA specifically. Drawing student attention to pressing issues and keeping them focused is my specialty. In my role as the Director of Financial Aid and Affordability, I would be focused on 3 main tasks. The first is facilitating more conversations between students and the Office of Financial Aid. That office is responsible for crucial decisions that directly impact the lives of individuals on this campus and their future on this campus. Yet it lacks transparency about the financial aid process and how these decisions are made. I feel this is unacceptable. The second is developing policy proposals in collaboration with other students, university offices, and organizations on campus. These policy proposals are essential and include efforts such as providing a tuition shopping sheet that outlines the cost of attending AU to incoming freshmen, and creating FAFSA and scholarship counselors within the Office of Financial Aid, as well as increasing the communication between students and their financial aid counselors. Finally, my role would include continuing to advocate for increased financial transparency from the Board of Trustees. Every decision regarding financial aid and tuition comes from the Board of Trustees, And students have a right to understand how those decisions are being made. And they need to be able to voice their concerns. As a result, I'll plan on working with the Board of Trustees and the student trustee on making their decisions more public, more transparent, and making sure that they hear the concerns of students. If confirmed, I look forward to updating the Senate on my work regularly and ensuring that this is a collaborative process. You folks have been leaders on affordability. I don't forget that. We're all directly affected by the decisions of the AU administration, and we can make change if we work together. I look forward to answering your questions.
Questions for the nominee? Sean?
Hi, so thanks for your presentation, for sharing your story. I know when I attended the budget roundtable, Doug presented through your habits was there, the CFO and the treasurer, and he mentioned how there will be an uptick of about 2.5% in the tuition increase. However, he also mentioned an increase in the budget allocated for financial aid. So my question is, how would you work with him to make sure that those two don't counteract each other?
Thank you. I was pleased by the change in the financial plan for the next 2 years in comparison with previous administrations at AU. Yes, we're able to mitigate the increasing costs by reducing costs on housing and other tuition and fees, but we are still increasing tuition. And it's important to remember that new financial aid initiatives do nothing for current students, only incoming students. So keeping pressure on the administration to keep those things in mind, as well as potentially expanding the emergency fund for financial aid is, I think, the place to start. I hope that answers your question. Please ask again.
Piper?
How do you envision yourself, if confirmed, working with the assistant comptroller for advocacy?
Absolutely. So I see these as two different roles. I think that I offer a unique value added to the cabinet as a whole, given my role previously as an RA and my connections with housing and residence life, as well as the Office of Campus Life. The Director of Advocacy under the comptroller is a more broadly focused role, where this would be putting specific pressure on the Office of Financial Aid to push for affordability issues. We saw in the election that this was one of the most pressing issues on campus, and I think it's a worthwhile endeavor for American University student government to remain at the front lines of this issue.
Other questions? All right, thank you. Discussion on the nominee. Piper?
I know we have a lot to say, but I just wanted to say, being in Mitchell's Hall, I've seen how well he connects to students on this campus, and I know how much he listens to and values the voices of students, and I think he will really take that with him if we confirm him, and I think that makes him really valuable, and I think we should.
Other points of discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote without objection. All those in favor of confirming Mitchell to be Director of Financial Aid and Affordability, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. In the chair, the ayes have it, and he is confirmed. Okay, moving to Chanel Saldana to be the Director of Executive Board Accountability. Sure.
Good afternoon. I would first like to thank you all for taking the time to be here today. My name is Chanel Saldana. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a first-year student majoring in journalism and political science. I'm very grateful to President Chen for nominating me to serve as the Director of Executive Board Accountability. Throughout middle school, much like many of us, I struggled to find my place and who I was. Having just moved to the US, I still very much felt like an outcast and quite simply that I did not belong. However, there was a moment that switched the flip for me, and little did I know that it would be student government. My 8th grade mentor had just won the student government vice president election and encouraged me to join the organization as a class representative. Initially hesitant to say yes out of fear of losing, I eventually decided to run, and with her support, was elected as a 6th grade class representative. 2 years later, I was elected into her position as vice president. I tell this story not to pat my middle school self on the back, but because for me, student government was and has been the place where I've always found a sense of belonging. It was where I was not only able to find my voice, but was able to use it to advocate for the change and the needs of my peers. However, as I progressed into high school and continued with my work in student government, I began to recognize that just like any other organization, it is not perfect. It needs consistent work in reforming. It needs internal and external accountability. So as student government president and then president of my class, I strove to make sure that we were not only listening to the voices of the students that we were representing, but following through with action. This meant holding both myself and my team accountable every step of the way. I knew that if I wanted student government to serve purposefully and effectively, we needed to be diligent about everything that we did and to hold ourselves accountable to who we were and what we stood for. Was I perfect in this? Certainly not. But through every mistake and triumph, I grew to understand what it means to serve diligently and responsibly. And I carried those lessons with me into who I am today. When I came to AU, I fell in love with the power and passion of the student voice and knew I wanted to get involved. So this year, I served as a first-year fellow for the Kennedy Political Union. I learned more than I can say about the importance of holding spending and daily tasks and projects accountable within such a large organization. And as the end of the semester was wrapping up, I reflected on my involvement throughout student government over the years, beginning from sixth grade to where I am right now. And I realized that beyond the more tangible, front and center work that I was able to do, it was truly the behind the scenes communicating, scheduling, and collaborating that genuinely made me proud to do what I did. And perhaps more importantly, I realized that it is because I only held myself accountable to each and every one of these steps that the larger skills initiatives were able to get done with efficiency. Having said all of this, as I began to think about applying to President Chen's cabinet, it was ultimately my previous experience leading many of these behind the scenes elements in student government that propelled me to apply for this position. I know the importance of ensuring that all those small steps, however trivial they may seem, get done and are done honestly and deliberately in order to ensure that the larger policies are able to be implemented. If given the chance to hold this position, I will continue to demand accountability from the executive board in all steps, both small and large of their work, as well as transparency between the executive boards and the students. This entails making sure that the executives are upholding their platform policies and doing simple things like attending weekly meetings, which I will document at every board meeting. I also plan to organize and implement town halls for members of the executive board throughout the year so that students have a forum in which questions and concerns can be honestly and openly addressed. I also plan to work with the Committee of Accessibility, Transparency, and Accountability here in the Senate and bring up any concerns that do arise. And finally, I plan to work with Amanda Hoffman to create a policy platform document that keeps track of all policies and the work done towards them for the public to see at all times. I realize I can't do this alone, and this is exactly why I will be reporting directly to this body and the entire AUSG on the status of the executive board, and most importantly, listening to your concerns and being open to your critical feedback. I look forward to working with the Senate in these goals and all our initiatives moving forward, and I thank you again for your time.
Questions for the nominee? Seeing none, thank you. If you don't mind leaving the room. Discussion on the nominee. Seeing none, we'll move to vote without objection. All those in favor of confirming Chanel Saldana to be the Director of Executive Board Accountability, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. And the chair, the ayes have it, and she is confirmed. Moving to the confirmation of Josh Evans to be the chair of the Community Service Coalition.
Can she come in?
Yes.
Yeah. The floor is yours.
Great. Hi, guys. Good afternoon. My name is Joshua Evans. My pronouns are he, him, his. And I want to first thank the senators today, Speaker Pugh for letting me speak, and of course, President Chen for giving me the nomination. I've always come from a giving family. From family dinners to family community service events, we've always found a way to advocate for people the same way people have done for us. With that being said, my mom started one of the biggest nonprofits in South Florida. She advocates for pregnant women diagnosed with HIV and AIDS and connects them to services in the community for that. And I worked with her all throughout high school, speaking to leaders of the community, drafting emails, talking with events, and being pushy, making sure everything runs according to plan. She's a leader in our community, and she's made me care about others in our community too. The director of the Community Service Coalition would be in charge of leading a group of students and bringing local DC organizations on campus and partnering with them to bring community service events onto campus. So I broke it up into 3 different sections. First, starting off with building, I would try to speak with the last person who was in this position. I know there was someone here, I don't know who they are currently, but I would try to speak to them. I would next, the undergraduate senate and how they would want this position to look like if this is on your position. Lastly, I would talk to the executive board, see what they want, develop a clear plan over the summer, and pass it on to senators. It's very important to connect with off-campus resources. AU builds leaders, and we should be leaders in the community too. And with that, I would also speak to the staff of community engagement, the director, Marcy Campos, and the co-director and also program coordinator, Harry Gillard. They run the community-based research scholars programs. So it's a 1 credit option program where they let students volunteer in the community with nonprofit organizations and receive credit for that. So with that department at AU, they would obviously be able to help me greatly with this position. Next, I would do connecting. I would want to connect with affinity groups on campus, Caribbean Circle and AASU, and also not forgetting like LGBT groups and other minority groups on campus, and making sure that we are one, connecting with all groups that are representative of all people, and 2, connecting with the correct organizations. Not making sure that we're nonpartisan in the sense that we're connecting with organizations that's representative for all people and people are going to do with it. Also want to have bi-weekly meetings with my staff and also with the board. And I want this position to connect with the nonprofit groups in DC and nationally and create cool fundraising events for that. But this isn't all about fundraising. I want this to be a position to create well-rounded community service leaders. I want to make these community service organizations teach people how to effectively advocate and how to run a community service event properly. I want to connect the leaders of the school to the leaders of the leaders of the organizations. I want to connect students to possible jobs and voluntary opportunities in the community. And lastly, action. I want the undergraduate senate to eventually connect with their own community service group. 1 organization a semester, putting on our own fundraising event and donating money to the organization. This will help create connections with the community, and that could really be anything, and the senate would decide on that. And lastly, I was thinking maybe then having a little dinner or maybe like a networking dinner with one of the with whatever nonprofit we choose in the community or nationally. And also, we want to touch back on the CBRS community-based scholars. That could also get a lot of kids back into AUSG. I know a lot of people have different qualms with AUSG, and I feel like if we work closely with those program directors, we can get people to volunteer with us and get really interested in AUSG. So, thank you.
Thank you. Questions for the nominee? Curtis?
How will you use, I guess, social media to get the word out about these events? Because I'm on the Community Service Coalition's Facebook page, and the last post was for an event more than a year ago on November 3rd.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was Facebook. So I would definitely work on that. That would be one of the first things I would work on. Definitely inviting kids, students out to these events. And I feel like a lot of students don't show up to events because they feel like it's by faculty. They feel like they won't get good information. But I feel like specifying that these are student-run events makes people come out more.
Yeah.
In high school, I actually ran our community service organization at my school, so I definitely have a heart for community service. And I think I've learned through that is that most of the people when they're really dedicated to doing community service, they often had projects that really touched their heart and kind of made them passionate about community service. So I was wanting to know if there was any projects for you that really touched you and made you be more involved with community service.
So back in high school, what I did, I worked on I was a student body president. So what we did is we linked up with a YMCA local chapter, and we helped young girls with STEM projects. So we had a women in coding program. So we connected young girls with women in high school and helped them out with coding. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you. If you want to leave the room. Discussion on the nominee. Yeah.
I feel that he'll do an excellent job in this position, and I look forward to some of the work that he does with it.
Other discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote without objection. All those in favor of confirming Josh Evans to be chair of the Community Service Coalition, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. Can the chair of the ayes have it? And he is confirmed. to move to the confirmation of Kevin Norton to be the director of the Kennedy Political Union.
All right. Good afternoon, Senate. My name is Kevin Norton, and my pronouns are he, him, his. I'm proud to be nominated to be the director of the Kennedy Political Union. From my time inside the organization, I have come to love KPU and dedicate myself to its mission. My personal view is that KPU needs to actively contribute to meaningful campus conversations by bringing speakers that uplift student voices that may not be heard in the AU community. I think that goes to the point that instead of reflecting just what the conversations are happening, we need to actively try to further those conversations in the events, and we need to be conscious of the impact of what we do on campus. I also recognize that being an effective leader of KPU is critical to the success of its team, and I want to build a diverse, dynamic team that creates relationships within the student body to purposefully engage all campus communities. That's a major priority of mine. I'm also conscious, I'm also conscious that I have been a part of KPU for a while. And so for that reason, I know that the various conversations around KPU I might not have been completely aware of, which is why I kind of created my vision. And in this development, I spoke with various campus communities and various student leaders as to what they think of KPU and how the organization can be improved. So I encourage you to take a look at this. I spent a lot of time developing this vision, a lot of conversations, but other than that, I am more than happy to take some of your questions.
Questions for the nominee? Seeing none. Thank you. Discussion on the nominee. Curtis.
Yes, Kevin spoke to this in CRP, and I think that's why we didn't ask questions, is because he gave great responses to concerns about, we're heading into the 2020 election season. What kind of speakers are you going to bring to campus? And Kevin really talked about how he wanted to bring a diverse group of speakers that appeals to all students of the community, and how he will continue the precedent that our outgoing KPU director, Yaz, has set when it comes to bringing a bipartisan group of speakers to campus.
Other points of discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote without objection. All those in favor of confirming Kevin Norton to be the director of the Kennedy Political Union, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. And the chair, the yeas have it, and he is confirmed. All right. Yes. Whenever someone makes a motion. We're going to move to the confirmation of Sarah Duvall to be the director of Women's Initiative.
Hey everyone, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Sarah. I'm a sophomore in SPA class, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself, my experience, and why I think I'm qualified to be the next director of Women's Initiative. So for the past 2 years, I've been involved with Women's Initiative. I entered as a first-year fellow,
where I worked with the Breaking Ground monologues to lead artistic workshops. And then my second semester, I joined as an anti-racism coordinator, where I organized an event on how to be an ally to women of color on campus. And this past year, I served as the director of the Breaking Ground monologues, which is a production of student-written poetry and a performance of that. And it's also a large-scale visual art gallery or student arts. I would like to share with you all a little bit about my vision for Women's Initiative and what I hope to bring forth if confirmed as the next director. So part of my vision is continuing to rebrand Women's Initiative as an intersectional feminist organization. And one way I think we can do this is through visual art projects. So this past year, we had a UNI photo shoot where women were photographed emulating a photo of like a woman role model that they had, and we launched that on social media. And I thought that was a good way to like highlight women of color and their role models and heroes. In the future, I would like WI and other students to create a community monument that represents WI's intersectional values, and this can look like a quilt that argues against rape culture, or a large-scale art display temporarily put in like Hudson or another building. I would also like WI to engage in more video projects or photo projects that highlight the experiences of queer students at AU. Another mission that I have is organizing educational workshops focused on health, empowerment, justice, and activism. So in the past, WI had a training session around the criminalization of domestic violence. In the future, I would like us to have an activist training session around reproductive justice. Another idea I have is for WI to partner more with multicultural and affinity organizations on campus. I lead an affinity organization on campus, and I feel like in the past, Women's Initiative hasn't done enough to partner, as particularly with Black and Latinx organizations on campus, and that's something that I want us to do more in the future. And I also want us to engage in more programming with the LGBTQ community, specifically non-binary and gender non-conforming folks who might feel like our organization isn't for them, but I want them to know that like Women's Initiative is an organization for people who don't fall within the gender binary. Another goal I have for Women's Initiative is for us to strengthen our online and print publication. So this year we launched Elbow Room, which is our online publication, and Lumen, which is our print publication. And these have been very successful. We've gathered a group of like talented artists, writers, photographers, videographers who have like published beautiful work in these publications. I wanted to continue to grow these by hiring more staff writers, making more bold, creative moves through these publications. And one of the last ideas I had was for Women's Initiative to strengthen our relationships with feminist organizations in the DC community. This past year, we partnered with Femme Fatale, which is an art and feminist collective in the city, and we awarded our Women's History Month Award to Force Upsetting Rape Culture, which is a Baltimore-based organization that creates large-scale monuments and quilts that advocate against rape and sexual violence. I would also like us to organize another event with Force, as I mentioned, where we could build community monuments for this campus. In the future, WI might collaborate with feminist organizations for activist training sessions, speaker engagements, and other artistic events. I'm open to any and all questions with the Senate classroom.
Questions for the nominee? Curtis?
Yes, Jacob in his presentation said that Women's Initiative will be receiving a little over $40,000 for programming. So what specific programming events will we use, and also will you have throughout the school?
Yeah, so one way we can definitely use the larger budget allocation that we're receiving is for these like larger scale speaker events. So like for the past years that I've been in WI, we always have these amazing ideas for speakers. We can usually only afford to do 1 or 2 large scale speaker events a year because of how small our budget has been in the past. We also haven't been able to do speaker events without relying on organizations like QQ and stuff. So like this will grant us more independence and like more financial, like a greater financial ability to have these like large scale speaker events.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you. Discussion on the nominee. Curtis?
Jacob was really excited about, giving WI more money, and I'm excited for confirming Sarah today.
Further discussion? Seeing None. We'll move to vote without objection. All those in favor of confirming Sarah Duvall to be the director of the Women's Initiative, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. And the chair, the ayes have it, and she is confirmed. Yes.
Could I motion to nominate Eddie Casella for sub-director?
You're not the one that's nominated. You have to just recall the nomination from CRP. Like, that's the motion. I think that's what you're getting at.
The other one already recalled.
Yeah, I recalled it.
Basically, you're pulling the nomination out of CRP to consider in full Senate. That's what you would be doing. What? What'd you say?
No, what could happen is if since a nominee's on docket for CRP, if Senate votes on that motion to pull it from CRP, it's basically a vote to waive first reading.
Yeah.
Essentially what it would be. So Senate would have to vote on the motion to recall it from CRP.
Is that what you were wanting to do? Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Where did you want to put it?
Right after.
Ooh, okay. Is there a second to recalling this confirmation from CRP?
Second.
There you go. Okay. Okay, and discussion on this motion. You might want to explain yourself. Do you want to yield? Do you want to explain?
Okay, so the issue that's happening is that David cannot assume the role right now because of a conduct reasoning until May 15th. So essentially, I want to basically confirm Eddie into the role of sub-director that will do the job until you guys convene again in September, and then I will nominate David, who was my initial nomination for sub-director, and then discussing that in September. And David also, if I yield my time, can just go into a little more detail if you guys want about that. But essentially, we need a sub-director before you guys leave this meeting. And if we do not confirm Eddie, there will be no sub-director, and you guys will not convene this upcoming week anyway. So,
Well, Loki may have to, but so I'm just throwing it out there. Like, there's a potential for another. I mean, like, we could have another meeting this week.
and I didn't find out about this until like at the transition vote when it was over from my out, and it still get confirmed, but then won't assume until after May 15th.
Okay. Discussion on this motion, Jacob.
I think maybe now would also be a good time for them to discuss having another meeting. If we want to do this another meeting, what might be worth talking about.
Discussion on this motion. The motion's to recall this confirmation of Eddie Casella, right? Casella, to be director of the Student Union Board from CRP to full Senate. Basically, like waiving the having to do a CRP meeting for it. Further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote on this motion, which brings the confirmation to full Senate. All those in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. And the chair, the ayes have it, and the motion passes. And so it is now line item L. Okay. Moving to the confirmation of Colin Colchimero to be the director of Founders Week.
Try to keep this brief. Hi, everyone. Thanks for sitting through all this. There's work things to do. My name is Colin Colchimero. My pronouns are he, him, and
is. I am just finishing up my sophomore year here. I'm excited to talk about my thoughts on Founders next year, but just a little bit about my experience so far at AU. I'm currently chair of AU Club Council, and in that capacity, I've been able to build a lot of bonds with many different campus leaders and organizations. I think that'll be really beneficial to me if I end up getting to serve as Founders Director, especially when thinking about programming for Founders Week. I'm also a former orientation leader and current orientation chair in the Office of Orientation, Transition, and Retention. And in that capacity, I've been able to build a lot of connections with campus departments and partners, as well as administrators, which I think additionally will make set me in a good place to serve as Founders Week Director if confirmed. And then within AUSG, I'm a former senator for the campus at large, and most recently I served as communications coordinator for the Founders Week Committee this past year. I got to work closely with our director, Emma Galasso, and our assistant director, Chris, and our advisor, Maya. I learned a lot and got to connect with SG execs, especially Alex Bailey and the Secretary's cabinet in terms of comms for founders. And I learned a lot. I'm not an event planner, so I learned about working with caterers and production companies and collaborating with venues, handling unexpected conflicts like the government shutting down while we're planning an event in the government building. Things that came up in the event that we just had to kind of roll with the punches because that's U2 and things like that. Some thoughts on this year. I was lucky to sit on the back committee Jacob talked about, and when we were able to double the Founders Week budget in particular from 5,000 to 10,000, I think it opened a lot of doors to expanding some of our most successful Founders Week programming from this year. Things like Taste the Tropics, we co-sponsored with Caribbean Circle. We had to turn away a lot of students at the door because we just didn't have the space or the food. And I think having a larger budget will make that a bigger event, will invite more students in. Things like Stuff-a-Fog, where a ton of students were lined up 15 minutes before the event started. We ran out of supplies in 9 minutes because that's all we could afford to buy. And then focusing on where some other partnerships can be developed with different campus partners. I'd love to see us work with the Office of Sustainability, talk a little bit about AU and our sustainability efforts on campus and putting that into Founders Week. And then in terms of the ball itself, I'm sorry, I'm speaking really fast. I think taking a good hard look at the way in which we are spending money on the event, where there might be potentials for the event to be cut, for price money that we spend to be cut so that we can invite more students into the event while still keeping it as amazing as I think it was this year. And I'm also prepared to answer for the decisions that the committee makes. I know founders can be kind of a controversial topic on campus because it is really expensive. And I know what it means to take criticism for the work that I've done. I'm prepared to do that. And I think I will be able to handle that effectively. And I also look forward to being held accountable by this body. All the director roles are really important. They do a lot for our community, and it's my goal that I'll be in communication with the Senate to make sure that I'm fulfilling what you're expecting of me, and supporting the other directors in their roles as they provide different programming initiatives for the campus community at large. And with that, thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for the nominee, Sean?
So you increase the budget for founders. Yeah. Have you planned to have more events so students can be more included, given that some can't attend the fall?
Yeah, so I think having a larger budget means we are able to support more clubs in the way that they try to program for Founders Week. This year we put out a call for clubs to connect with us and organize some Founders Week programming that we as the committee would be able to financially support it. I think coming from my vantage point, having worked with so many clubs in my past experience, I'll be successful in connecting with them and opening more events up to students. I think that's the way that we're going to try to respond to the fact that we can't fit 8,000 people at a ball, is that we organize as many events throughout the week as we can so that Founders is accessible to as many students as possible.
Other questions? Seeing none. Thank you. Discussion on, yes. Yes. Yes, we still have 12. Discussion on the nominee. Sean?
Collins eminently qualified, his experience having served on the Founders Committee, having served in the Senate, and having served as chair of the club council. And I think he's able to translate that into
other discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote without objection. All those in favor of confirming Colin Colchamero to be the director of Founders Week, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. In the chair, the ayes have it, and he is confirmed. Which way did he walk? Moving to the confirmation of Eddie Casella to the director of the Student Union Board.
I give my time to Davis.
Yeah.
Wait, is David
Hmm.
original person in the suburb?
Originally, yeah.
Right. He's
Even if he's, because he's,
not.
yeah. Can someone grant him speaking rights? Motion, Sean? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. Okay. 4 minutes.
Hey guys, obviously I'm not Eddie. My name is David Mouliou. I'm a sophomore. Mulan initially nominated me to be sub-director, but then we found out earlier today that because I'm on disciplinary probation until May 15th, so I won't be able to assume the role until after that. And since we'll all be on our summer vacations by that time, we need somebody who's going to be in charge of sub over the summer and the period in between, or else that's really going to set us back in terms of all of the fall programming that we do, and that would just make it impossible for us to do a welcome week show or anything like that. So it's really important that when we leave here today, we have somebody in this position, like Mulan said. So Mulan and I talked about it, and we think that the best person to fill the position until I'm able to assume the role is Eddie. So Eddie was one of Visa's initial suggestions for who should be sub-director, so we think that he's eminently qualified. He's been on sub for the past 2 years, just like I have. He definitely takes a leadership role, and I was already planning to make him one of my deputy directors. We were already planning to work very closely together anyway. So I don't really think that there will be any issue in terms of transitioning or us working together or anything like that. So that's speaking a little bit to his qualifications, but after when we resume in the fall and when there's the next meeting of the Senate, Eddie plans to step down and have me be sub-director like we initially planned. So just also speaking to my qualifications a little bit, I've been on sub for the past 2 years. Last year I was on freshman support staff, and this year I work with the budget. So I know the ins and outs of the organization very well, particularly in terms of our finances, which is one of the most important things on sub. And then I think the second main reason why I'm qualified is that I have a lot of leadership experience. So in high school, I was the leader of a ton of different things, like the yearbook, the debate team, things like that. I led the yearbook, which had a staff of over 40 people. On the debate team, I led weekly prep sessions. And I'm also on the e-board of my fraternity as our treasurer. So I have a ton of leadership experience, and I think that the best way for me to work with subs in terms of being a leader. And yeah, this is obviously not a traditional speech, but I'm completely open to discussing any questions anybody has about our transition plan or my specific conduct situation or me or Eddie's qualifications.
Questions? Lucas?
Yeah, can you explain further about your conduct situation?
Yeah, sure. So pretty much my room was searched at the beginning of this semester, and they didn't find any drugs, but they did find drug paraphernalia, so some bowls, grinders, things like that. So I was put on disciplinary probation until the end of the semester, which technically, according to my sanction, ends on May 13th. So in 2 weeks, there will be no issue.
Piper?
Sorry if I missed this, but is Eddie cool with this plan?
Yeah, Eddie is on board with all of it.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you. Who am I leaving the room? Actually, no, it doesn't matter. Eddie's not here. So standard now. Discussion on the nominee. Seeing no discussion. We'll move to vote without objection. All those in favor of confirming Eddie Casella to be the director of the Student Union Board, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. In the chair, the ayes have it, and he is confirmed. Moving to the confirmation of Imani McDonald to be the Assistant Comptroller for Administration. The floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. My name is Imani McDonald, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I am a sophomore majoring in biochemistry and minoring in public health. I would like to thank Bobby for nominating me to serve as the Assistant Comptroller for Administration. I would thank you all for being here today. In this position, I will track spending for student government and work closely with student activities for internal spending and club co-sponsorships. My role as Vice President of Finance for Caribbean Circle has allowed me to become very familiar with the processes and protocols of student activities and with tracking spending over time. Coming from a student organization myself, I know how difficult it is to obtain funding in order to put on events throughout the school year. In this position, I hope to make AUSG more accessible as a financial resource for student organizations. I would like to work with Bobby to advertise AUSG as a resource and encourage clubs to utilize AUSG so that it becomes a well-known resource outside of AUCC. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Questions for the nominee? Seeing none, thank you. If you don't mind leaving the room. Discussion on the nominee? Seeing none, we'll move to vote without objection. All those in favor of confirming Imani McDonald to be the Assistant Comptroller for Administration, say yay. Yay. All those opposed say nay. Can the chair the ayes have it? And she is confirmed. Now moving to the confirmation of Tamir Harper to be the Assistant Comptroller for Advocacy.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Tamir Harper, pronouns he, him, his. I'm a first-year student studying public relations with a double minor in education and leadership. I'm here to be hopefully voted in as Assistant Comptroller for Advocacy, doing a lot of that work of doing the financial aid aspect, but also looking at the other small things such as library fees, and working with clubs to get them funding, things like that. My background, I operate a nonprofit, which has tripled their operating budget from $6,000 to $30,000 to hopefully on projection $70,000. So when we look at money, how to get line items approved and how to move money around, I have extensive experience doing that. In the community at AU, I'm also a member of the President's Council on Diversity and Inclusion, as well as on the working group for bias reporting protocols. In this role, I hope to work with different groups on campus, as well as look at how we can lower financial aid, lower tuition, and increase financial aid as we do want more students of color to come to AU, and that's also part of how we recruit more diverse candidates to AU. That's my spiel. I think you guys have heard enough people talk, so if you guys have questions, you guys can throw them in.
Questions, Sean?
Hi, Mary. So can you detail your experience serving on your or managing your nonprofit and how you'll be able to translate that into your position as associate comptroller?
Indeed. So I've been operating an education advocacy nonprofit based in Philadelphia called Undergraduate, and I'm co-founder and current executive director. So our first year we wrote many grants. It didn't get all of them, but we got one for $6,000. The following year, we figured out how to save money with $6,000 grant and serve the 200,000 plus students in the school district of Philadelphia. Saved money, doubled our operating budget to a little over 20. And this is not just me. I have a great team from a finance director to associate directors to help manage these funds. But grant writing, call time, asking people for money, but also just connecting with the Philadelphia community. I think in this role, specifically working with groups, how to manage their budget, how to write grants to get money. We have many grants on campus. How can we get more groups on campus to get that money and feel comfortable, as I believe Senator Jacob was saying, request money from AUSG?
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you. Discussion on the nominee. Piper?
Just like the fact that he knows how to write grants, and also I really like his small ideas on like library love and stuff, like making little things add up. Good ideas.
good choice.
Sean?
And I also think this, President's Council for Diversity and Inclusion also gives him that perspective, effective, cultural advocate.
Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote without objection. All those in favor of confirming Tamir Harper to be Assistant Comptroller for Advocacy, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. In the opinion of the chair, the yeas have it, and you're confirmed. Moving to Tanya Pillai, right, Pillai? Yeah, to be Deputy Director of Online Engagement.
Hello, my name is Tanya Pillai. I'm sorry, I'm a little congested. But I'm also a freshman here and I'm majoring in SIS. And social media plays a prominent role in all our lives. We are constantly posting, sharing, and commenting on various platforms. And I recognize the power of social media, and I'm sure all of you do as well, as it allows us to stay connected and updated no matter where we are. And this semester in my college writing class, our central theme of the class is online intercultural communication, meaning how people communicate and are influenced online. And therefore, I can transfer these skills that I learned in understanding our interaction on social media to build a strong presence for James and AUSG. If I were to serve in James's Secretary of Cabinet as Deputy Director of Online Engagement. My goal for his social media is to maintain a strong presence by detailing a clear plan for when to post and the content of that post, and whether it to be on a story, commenting, sharing, or the post itself. And I want his account to represent him, meaning it should be sophisticated, interactive, as well as inclusive. So the student body knows that he is approachable. Overall, I want his lighthearted personality to be showcased through his account, and I believe the director and I can achieve that. Oh, sorry. During my last 2 years in high school, I served as the president of UNICEF Club, where I organized a silent auction, and I secured brand donations from Real Madrid, Kendra Scott, and Swarovski. My club and I designed and sold unique UNICEF apparel, where I promoted this through Instagram and Twitter, where it received traction, and also I went to every teacher in the class in the school and passed out flyers and forms to all of them so they could give it to their students. And through this leadership position, I developed an excellent work ethic and learned what it means to be a true leader and how to balance multiple commitments. Here at AU, I am in a Miramont work and a SU, and I will be here over the summer interning at the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. As a Deputy Director of Online Engagement, I will assist in creating marketing calendar, which I will work with the director on, and creating effective plans, scheduling events, and managing social media accounts. I believe my diverse responsibilities in various positions, as well as my skills in organization, time management, and multitasking qualify me for this position.
Questions for the nominee? Yeah.
What do you think one of your best assets will be that you can bring to the job?
I think my organization and my creativity. I have quite a few perspectives and ideas that I want to bring, and I think that'll definitely translate through this position, especially working with the director when we pass ideas around. I think that my new ideas and creativity through how I work with these new skills will definitely affect and hopefully succeed.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you. If you wouldn't mind leaving the room. Discussion on the nominee. Yep.
I think she'll do very well in that deputy role with bringing organization as well as new ideas. Always good to have someone there at the table that has new ideas and fresh ones. So she'll do well.
Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote without objection. All those in favor of confirming Hanya Pillai to be the Deputy Director of Online Engagement, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. In the chair, the ayes have it, and she is confirmed. Lucky Grover. Now moving to the confirmation of Curtis Hayashi to be the Director of Community Engagement.
So first of all, thank you, James, for appointing me to serve in your cabinet as Director of Community Outreach. This opportunity will continue my existing involvement in student government and the American University community. I plan to build upon existing and create new connections and relationships with fellow students on our campus. I see a great deal of potential in joining the Secretary's cabinet and furthering my work in student government as a part of James's cabinet because my experience inside and outside of AUSG gives me a unique perspective. As a member of the AU student government and a representative in the AU Residence Hall Association this past school year, I noticed that both organizations have one common thing. The common thing being that there isn't an effective way to communicate internally and externally. And I would like to change that as the Director of Community Outreach. For example, as a member of the Residence Hall Association, I worked with the RHA President, James Bell, in regards to dining advocacy. And when it comes to dining advocacy, I talked to him about one thing in particular, and that's the vending machines. The vending machines and something as simple as using your one card at a Coca-Cola machine in the residence hall. I went to Jared's office hours and I spoke with him and his chief of staff about, what's going on with our vending machines, what are new ideas that housing and dining are proposing in the future. And that's the way I gained the trust of high-level members of the Residence Hall Association. Secondly, this position would make me the primary liaison between AUSG and on-campus clubs and student media in particular. So when it comes to campus clubs and organizations, I'm a part of the Hawaii Club. I served as the treasurer this past year, and I've built relationships within AUCC, within student activities. And with those connections, I hope to make the AU student government an effective communicator as an organization when it comes to communicating with the club council or student activities about what we're trying to do, what we're trying to achieve as an organization. And most importantly, I'd like to touch upon my relationship with student media. So back in the fall semester, I worked in AU Dining as a dining ambassador, and there was a lot of stuff going on with dining, in particular with megabytes and whatnot. So when I used to table for AU Dining, I would have random students come up to the table and ask about megabytes. I unfortunately did not have all the answers, so I went out on my own time as a member of student government to administrators like Anne Marie Powell by attending dining advisory board meetings and by talking with representatives and editors from AWOL and the Eagle about what's going on with dining. And whenever a member of student media would approach me, in person or via social media, I would immediately respond to them and, arrange a meeting to engage with them, to have conversations, have meaningful talks about the issues that we, American University students, care about. And that's what I hope to achieve as the Director of Community Outreach. I yield the rest of my time to the staff.
All right, questions for the nominee? John?
So Kurt, how do you plan to couple your new role while also remaining in the Senate, and how will those two intertwine?
Right, so also another part of what James and I talked about in our interview and in our conversations with each other is that the secretary's director of community outreach would also internally branch student government together as a member of both. If confirmed as the director of community outreach, I would have a unique perspective as a member of this undergraduate senate, because I know we pass bills and resolutions, but not necessarily all of the bills and resolutions get traction from student media. I mean, the important ones do, but also there are many more bills and resolutions that student media could cover. And as a part of the undergraduate senate, not only would I be an advocate, I would also be a communicator when it comes to explaining to a member of the Eagle or a member of student media about the context, the reasoning why we passed the bill, and what are the next steps for the Senate, for student government to really move forward when it comes to bringing tangible action in our community.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you. If you don't mind leaving the room. Discussion on the nominee.
Yeah, there's no doubt of Kurt's passion and his dedication to the students and community. And I think he'll do an excellent job in serving this position.
Other points of discussion?
I only have
11's fine, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we're still done, yeah. Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote without objection. All those in favor of confirming Curtis Hayashi to be the Director of Community Engagement, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. You pin the chair, the yeas have it, and he's confirmed. Moving to the confirmation of Eugen's, what was it, Sayo? Sayo, okay, to be the Director of Digital Media.
Hi, my name is Eugen. Most of you guys don't know me, but I'm a freshman. I'm a PR major, minor in marketing, and minor in international business. So I first got into AU for the communication media studies, and I then changed my major to PR, but I still love media and everything about it. So if I am appointed for this position, I am determined to bring diversity into the photos that you guys will see on social media. And that is my mission as appointed to be this position. But I'll be working really closely with the Director of Online Engagement and everybody on the Secretary Cabinet. So they're a high school, I was on the yearbook committee, I was a photographer for our high school yearbook, and I also helped kickstart Kiss for a Cause, which is a nonprofit organization, and I was on the board of directors for that, and I also was a social media director for the nonprofit organization. So I had to use Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff to promote fundraisers and promote the events that we were hosting. So I'm very familiar with using social media and things that go into online engagement. So I will, even though online engagement is not my position, I will still be contributing to that position as well. So I think it's really important for us to have a good presence on campus. Student government does a lot for the campus, but everything goes unrecognized. And I think using social media and using professional photography can bring light to what you guys do. So I will be going to all your meetings, taking pictures and highlighting the student body activities. And I'll also be taking a headshot, so that's from taking all the staff, keyboard, all of you guys, that you guys can use for your profiles or whatever. And I'll be communicating with all the other cabinet members on what you guys want from my photos and what stories you guys want me to tell through my photos. And I'll just be really open to whatever you guys asking for. So.
All right. Questions for the nominee? Seeing none, thank you. If you don't mind leaving the room. Discussion on the nominee, Piper.
I'm just really excited about her. I just wanted to say.
Other discussion?
She takes nice pictures. She's a nice Instagram.
If you want. Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote without objection. All those in favor of confirming Yujin Seo to be the Director of Digital Media, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. Can the chair the ayes have it, and she's confirmed. Now we're moving to the confirmation of Ayman Bahidi to be the Elections Commissioner. Ayman is not here. He is away for the weekend, but it's also another position that kind of needs to be filled before September comes around because they got to start planning earlier than the 1 month period. So if y'all want to, I don't know.
Why does he need to be confirmed? Isn't it all like election?
It's a 1 year site, yeah, it's a 1 year term, so you just have to be confirmed. So yeah, I will just move right to discussion if there's no objection. Part. Motion. There's a motion to close debate and vote. Yeah. Okay. All those in favor of closing debate and moving to vote say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. Opinion chair the ayes have it. So now all those in favor of confirming Ayman Bahidi to be the Elections Commissioner say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. The chair the ayes have it, and he's confirmed. We'll now move to the election of the 24th Speaker of the Undergraduate Senate, Piper. Wait, the floor is now open for nominations,
Oh,
unless you have a motion.
well, I was gonna motion to table it so we can do it Wednesday, but if that's not what people want, I mean, whatever works for people, but that seems like it would perhaps be a more better time.
Well, if you make the motion, we would have to debate it, so then you could have that discussion.
I
but-
see. So anyways, I would like to make that motion.
Okay, there's a motion to table the election. Is there a second?
Okay,
Hearing no
that's that.
second. Yeah. All right. Well, now the floor. Is there any other? There are no other motions or. Okay. So the floor is now open for nominations. Wayne,
I'd like to nominate Senator Sean Matthew Flores as Speaker.
is there a second?
Second.
I hear a second. Do you accept the nomination? Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, the floor is now closed. You have 5 minutes. No, 7, sorry. You have 7 minutes technically. No, I lied. No, it's only 5. It's 7, it's 7 minutes. It's 10 minutes for questioning. They changed it so many damn times. Also, I will also make mention that this is an election elect. It doesn't whoever it doesn't take office until I resign next week.
If
Just
you
that.
resign.
If I get exactly, you have to wait till I resign. Floor is yours.
Okay. So thank you to Senator Rodriguez for the nomination. So service has always remained a cornerstone throughout my life. I witnessed my father's service to our nation while in uniform, and from that I learned that service always triumphs over one's own personal desires and convenience. Likewise, in her service as a counselor and probation officer, my mother taught me how everyone deserves the right to be heard and redeemed. Because of this inspiration, I became involved in student government in both middle school and high school, serving as both president of my high school student government as well as National Honor Society. In both capacities, I presided over meetings overseeing our student government house and
and I ensured that both bodies cultivated a legislative agenda that was representative of the students we served. My approach to both these roles was offering fresh perspectives as to allow my fellow members so that I could help them as well as improve our organization. Serving as the co-author of a new student government constitution and a new National Honor Society bylaws allowed me the opportunity to do just that. Similarly, I served on the bylaws commission here in AUSG, and that afforded me that same opportunity to improve AUSG as a whole. While facilitating relationships throughout the Office of Campus Life in my role as chair of the Student Rights and Services Committee, it afforded me the experience to connect with university administrators, facilitate a cooperative dialogue, and advocate for student rights. As speaker, I intend to approach the duty in the exact same way, and I recognize that we must improve our organization in order for it to fully render the services that our student body deserves. Likewise, I will be committed as speaker to ensuring that I serve as a resource and to help each of you in executing your goals and bringing them into fruition. Although I have outlined my priorities in the memos I handed out, these priorities are not definite. My duty is to each of you because I value each of you and welcome all your opinions as well as how we can better improve our AUSG setting. I'm running for speaker today because of something that inspired me back when I was a sophomore in high school. During that year, I found out my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. While this realization broke my heart, it was the incredible opportunity I had to care for her in her last years of life, combined with my faith in God, that reaffirmed to me who I am and why I'm here. This experience taught me that there is no greater group to serve than one's family. I truly consider each of you a member of my own family, and it is my heartfelt honor to serve as your speaker. And together, we can serve our family, American University, and through love, resilience, respect, and faith, we can strive to reach our God-given potential. Thank you.
Questions for the nominee? Piper?
Do you agree that you're such an amazing person and I'm really proud of you?
I try to be, but thank you.
Other questions? Parker? Further questions? Curtis?
So Raphael brought up earlier that, that there was a CDI training plan, but only 3 senators responded. Well, this undergraduate senate, 13. It seems that, actually, correction, 14.
14, yeah.
Correction, 14th undergraduate senate. It seems that a lot of senators have, have left the body, they come in and out, they leave after showing up for 10 minutes. How will you keep this body accountable, and how will you make the meetings effective to the point where we want to show up early for meetings that end on time?
So one of the things I outlined in my bylaws was I fully intend to release newsletters, and what those newsletters will do is it will highlight the achievement of the work that senators are doing. So that would be an incentive for senators to actually do work. In terms of holding senators accountable, I'll have a more stringent adherence to both the bylaws, which outline the attendance policy for Senate, as well as senators' attendance in various on-campus events, their attendance in committee meetings, and then also I would look to ensure that that senators have that opportunity by sending out weekly emails of events that are occurring on campus, so that they actually know of those opportunities that they can go to, and then they can interact with different organizations, and then actually hear the different issues that are happening on campus, and then from that they can make those changes if they desire.
Further questions? Seeing none, if you wouldn't mind leaving the room. Discussion on the nominee.
I just think Sean's gonna do such a good job, and I think where, in areas where he might fall short, he'll be open for criticism and for growth, and I think that's most important, so I think he did great.
I have a quote from Sean, and Sean said, "This is a great job at this, and he's willing to listen." And I think overall, he'll help turn people on.
Further discussion? Wayne?
Yeah, I mean, just seeing his work with the leadership program, but also like outside and seeing him participate within the community, I think that's a very vital aspect for this position, especially when it comes to expanding our outreach towards like the community and, you know, making us more accessible in that aspect. I think it'll be very good at representing us, giving us a good model for what's to come in the future.
Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote without objection. I meant to get.
Good motion to like out loud though.
I mean, you can, well, you are automatically supposed to do secret ballot, and it's the most restrictive, so I'm not sure if you're allowed to not do that.
You can suspend the rules if you want to do that.
Yeah.
It's gonna take the same amount of time.
If you want. Okay, so you're suspending the rules to do what? Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second discussion on suspending the rules. Seeing none, all those in favor of suspending the rules to change voting procedure, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. Okay, and therefore we know voice voting. All those in favor of electing Sean Matthew Flores to be the 24th Speaker of the Undergraduate Senate, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. In the opinion of the current chair, we have Sean Matthew Flores as the next speaker. Any further new business for the Senate? Piper. Okay, moving to public comment. Any public wishing to speak? Seeing none, go to the order. Any executives to go to the order? Mulan.
Thank you guys for approving my cabinet. Appreciate it.
Other executives, chief of staff?
Yeah, so I will first, this year, I just want to commend you. I've been with you since my freshman year, being in the Senate together. And I'm proud to see you, this body, and just wish you luck in the future. So, we're gonna work together. Second thing is President Chen wants to let you all know that she had to leave early. She has seen your send off, but she didn't want to be here. She commends the new speaker, looks forward to working with you as well as all of the other Senate members in this room. And obviously, this process in regards to confirmation takes a long time. She appreciates your help, your critical advice, your feedback, and we'll continue to hopefully receive that and gain that from you as the year goes on, and specifically with me and my role as chief of staff. Look forward to meeting with you all, working with you, speaker, and any goals that you have, believe me, I'm committed to what I said today. We'll stand by that, so please just reach out.
Other executives will go to the order. James? Executives? Senate, any senators will go to the order? You're still senator.
Well, I like to thank Wayne for nominating me. Thank you all. I'm here for you. I'm a resource for you. I'm also a friend for you. So thank you so much for your faith and your confidence in me. God willing, I will do a great job. And thank you to Trevor, who's a great example to me. I will still be relying on him for help, as well as Bobby and of course all of you. So thank you.
Other senators will go to the order. Curtis?
Yes, thank you, Trevor, for your service in the Senate, and also thank you for that wonderful late night breakfast bingo. McDowell. Really appreciate your work inside and outside of the Senate.
You're welcome. Piper?
I know it's annoying when people talk just to hear themselves speak, but I just genuinely wanted to say, coming into this, everyone said that the Senate was toxic, that student government was a terrible experience, that they hated it. And I found that to be so completely opposite of the truth of this past year. I've seen so much dedication and hard work from my peers, from people all over student government. And I think everyone has grown and really shown that growth and development. And I'm just proud to have witnessed it and grateful to have made friends along the way.
Wayne?
Just to echo that sentiment, I just think, always wanting to come into AOSU because I never had student government or any sort of experience when I was able to access something like this. This was a great opportunity to meet people and just be part of a body that actually wants to progress an actual community. And just, I'm happy to make new friends, and I'm just excited for what's coming next semester. And congratulations again, Sean. You really do deserve this position. I think I'm very excited for what you're going to bring. And congratulations to all the board newly elects, and I'm excited for what potential you're going to bring for the next class and for all of us.
Parker?
One last thing, our Senate was like scandal free. I'm very well at previous years. Had a board.
Stop.
You got a whole other semester coming.
I think we need more scandal.
Don't jinx it. You got a whole semester
Wow,
left.
goodness.
The 13th Senate still had more senators present during the meeting than you guys can actually.
True.
Quality, not quantity.
I do that.
There are plenty of open seats right now. Other senators for the good of the order? Okay, yeah, so thank you all for sitting through this. I know 4 hours is not very enjoyable, and some of us have been up and going since 10 a.m. So it's been a long day. But yeah, thank you for this past year. It's gonna be actually really weird not devoting my Sundays to Senate anymore. Whether that's a good thing or bad, I don't know. Nope, we're better. We're better than this. But no, I really thoroughly enjoyed being the speaker here, and then last year and getting to know a lot of people. And like a lot of people say, like this year, like honestly, is so much better than when like Ryan and I came in 2 years ago. It just completely changes the way people work and the people interact with one another. And so I really appreciate that, and I look forward to seeing everything that you all do next semester, everything that the executives do next semester. And with that, we are adjourned for the fall, or the spring, sorry, the spring.
No fall.
No fall.